I'm still not enough. You wanna be done with him, you're stuck with him, 'cause you don't have the guts. And after all I've done, I'm still not enough.
Still at your place, trying to make it okay. These miles away, I'm left here reusing that you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you're asking?
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to ESL Challenger League. I, of course, am Wolfie, and joining me for our lower bracket matchup of the evening is Dean. And it's a matchup that we can't really make head nor tail of, can we, Dean? We're struggling a little bit here.
Yeah, no, I mean, on paper, it still has a lot of the parts to be a pretty entertaining matchup. We're just kind of we're looking at two teams at the moment that are dealing with their own individual issues. Obviously, Sprout have been looking for a replacement for Azar for about the last month now, I believe. They've been playing with Zikos and seems like a solid enough player, but I'm not too sure if he's even their full-time fifth or if this is just a temporary solution. And then on the other hand, you have Looking for Org X Heat. They of course lost their backing recently, so that's going to be something that can potentially demotivate, but potentially also motivate them to hopefully play better and prove what they're capable of.
Yeah, I think the problem and the big problem for looking for org is that they've now got a fairly hefty decision to make, right? There is some talented individuals on that roster. There is some individuals in there who you could argue should reasonably be, picked up by any other org out there. You could reasonably see some of those pieces, Maka, Hadji when he's about. We've got X Real listed here, not sure who they're playing with again. And these individuals could be picked up by other teams, right? You could see them potentially going across to other tier two organizations. So do you commit? Do you make the grind a reality? Or is this right, we're going to play, we're going to look for individual offers now, but we're not necessarily going to be taking the team aspect of it so seriously? And then arguably, I mean, it's not quite the same dilemma that Sprout have got, but it's pretty damn close. They've had as many IGLs as I've eaten hot meals in the last month, and they can't seem to settle on an idea, on a philosophy on how they want to play the game. There seems to be a lot of internal conflict going on, which is what Azza said on his way out. They couldn't decide how they wanted the IGL to play and reconcile that with the org's vision of things. And so they're chopping and changing and they're constantly switching out players, which just creates an environment where there's zero stability and there's zero sort of understanding of how you want to play the game because it's changing on, well, a daily basis at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of you have a fairly stable lineup and Looking for Org that potentially we could see eventually breaking up, as you were saying, with the opportunities that could come their way. And on the other hand, you have probably the most unstable lineup ever in Sprout, both in terms of, as you said, IGL, but also just the number of roster changes in general they've had over these past couple of years. It never really feels like a team has had an opportunity to truly settle down and maybe grind out some of those issues that they could be facing. And you've got to wonder sometimes if some of these lineups could have maybe got over that hump if they had to just pushed it for a little bit longer.
Yeah, you do have to sort of look at it, and you just think that Azza was on that roster for what, a month and a half, and you wonder when you've got an IGL of that tenure and that experience if it's worth listening to his suggestions maybe and trying it for 3-4 months before you decide that this simply isn't going to work. But of course, what do we know? We don't know what's going on in the background, and we'll have to wait and see if this does work and if it does revitalize Sprout or if we're going to get another one of their very trademark, almost entire roster shuffles where they swap players left, right, and center from the tier two scene and somehow seem to always come out the other side shining. But that is our matchup. We do have another matchup down on the B stream for you tonight, and one that's got a little more stability in it as well. It's the French juggernaut, if you can call them that these days, of LDLC coming up against B8 after obviously they failed to make it to the major. So it's an interesting one. It's not actually what we've got on the screen there. I believe Partisan Movi has been rescheduled for another day.
Sure.
So that's all good. But it is LDLC B8. That is still a very intriguing game to get your eyes on. That is still a roster, B8 coming back on their redemption arc from the RMRs and the disappointment coming into that. LDLC, I think, looking for an identity as a French five stack, right? We've got a couple of French five stacks. One's just lost its org. What's LDLC going to do? Are they going to be the ones who start pinching some of these ex-Heat players and start to plug the gaps in their youngsters? Or is it going to be that both of these rosters stick it out? There's a lot of storylines going on in Tier 2 French CS at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got the potentially more exciting of the two matches either way, even with the issues that we're talking about. One thing that's going to make this very interesting is when you look at the map pools for Sprout. Well, for both, they are very wide, but for Sprout, you've got to wonder with all these in-game leader changes, is that truly how wide their map pool is, or are the stats wildly misrepresenting it? Because that seems like it's probably going to be the way things have gone. So, going towards the map pool, I think Looking for Org probably will come out with a bit of an advantage in that regard.
Well, they're going to come out with more of an advantage, I believe, because I am just looking at the messages we're getting through from the wonderful admin team today, and they have 100% confirmed that Launex, Zello, Xiphon, and Stare will be playing for Sprout, and that they have a coach called Berry. They have no confirmation of a fifth, and they're not 100% sure if Berry is going to have to stand in for the games today. So that potentially, again, is one of those, like, it's a textbook problem. You can't find a fifth. Your coach has to come in and play. You lose, 10, 15% of your skill ceiling on your fifth player, but it's not a happy place to be. And as you said, just going back to the vetoes after I dropped that bombshell on Sprout, we do have the vetoes available for us. LFO go straight in with the Mirage ban, standard, expected. Sprout come up with the nuke ban, standard, expected, nothing too shocking there. LFO pick towards Vertigo, Sprout pick towards Ancient. Both teams sort of going for second seed first picks, not necessarily their common first pick, but in this case, both teams are competent on each other's first pick, so it kind of makes sense to try and spread the pool, get something a little more interesting in there. LFO then go on to ban Overpass, which again makes a lot of sense. It's the standard first pick of Sprout. Sprout go into ban Anubis, which is again one of those second tier first picks for LFO. And Inferno is left as the decider. And that's, to me, the most intriguing map of the lot. If we can get to that third map decider, because Inferno is LFO's standard first pick. It's the map they like to play. They've got 36 reps on it in the last 3 months. They win a hell of a lot of them. 2/3 of those games they're winning. They look very, very solid. But it's also a map that Sprout, whilst they've not played as many reps, 13 in the last 3 months, they're on a bit of a hot streak recently. They've got 4 wins on the trot. They look like they know what they're doing more often than not on Inferno. And it's also one of those maps that's very gamble stack heavy. It's one of those maps where if maybe your fifth player isn't who you want it to be, or is someone who will struggle individually in the server, you can gamble stack them into a heavily stacked site. You can use them to throw more utility and let your riflers go out elsewhere and do the fragging for you. So if we get there, it does feel intriguing. I have to say, though, with a Vertigo and an Ancient coming up as the first 2 maps, that feels like a tough old draw for Sprout.
Yeah, Looking4Org are pretty good on Ancient. I mean, they do have some losses in there against teams you think maybe they should have beaten, but overall, it's a map that they play a ton of and they have a lot of experience on as well. And more importantly, I think Vertigo is going to be a fantastic map for Looking4Org. They've picked into it, they've seen it's been a massive weakness for Sprout in recent times. They've had a bunch of single-digit losses where they haven't got past 6 or 7 rounds. It's actually how they lost out to Sangal in the initial round of games here in the ECL Challenger. So, yeah, I think this is gone incredibly well for Looking4Org, and Sprout are going to just need to be able to take that second map. I think steal away Ancient, take it to Inferno, and have their opportunity there.
Yeah, that's a horrible place to be, isn't it? Knowing full well that first map, the odds are well and truly stacked against you. Then you throw in everything else we're talking about, Sprout's issues with, fifths and numbers and working out that. It's going to be a tough old ride, and you're absolutely right. Everything is set up for the LFO 2-0, right? But if we are going to find a way, if we are going to try and tell the story of how Sprout can make this happen across 3, then it has to be that second map. It has to be they get their comeback rolling, they bring out some sort of pocket strat or idea into Ancient that counters LFO really nicely. They then push it to that third map of Inferno. They've got confidence there. They've got recent wins there. They know what they're doing there, and they can start to plaster over the holes in the wall just that little bit better. But if we are to get into the matchup, if we are to get into the best of 3, we do need to get through the ads and the break before we can get started. Give the players a few minutes to get in, get warmed up, and get ready to go. So we are going to throw it to a very quick break, guys. When we're back, we'll have map 1 for you.
You love it, you wear it. What's your style? Get your merch at shop.eslgaming.com.
speak for a couple of weeks. I'll be in his place till he calls and says he's sorry. This situation's on repeat, just like a scratch on a CD. It just gets deeper when you hit rewind. How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending tears and it's blurring your vision. You know he don't love you, hurt you holding on to. Scream through the phone even though he won't listen. So I'm still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here in music. That you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you rescue? I'm feeling kinda used, yeah, like a drug that you take when you're sick of crying all your tears away. Is that all I am? All I want is for you to be happy. You know this ain't healthy. Do I make you happy? How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending tears and it's blurring your vision. You know he don't love you, what you holding on to. Scream through the phone even though he won't listen. So I'm still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here in music. That you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you rescue? I'm doing everything he doesn't do, but I'm still not enough. Even your parents know I'm good for you, but I'm still not enough. You wanna be done with him, you're stuck with him, 'cause you don't have the guts. And after all I've done, I'm still not enough. Still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here in music. That you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you rescue?
All right, Vertigo jumping straight in at the deep end for Sprout. LFO's map pick, so of course they will be starting over on the CT side of things, and in need of a bit of a blinder here. Pistol would certainly be a good way to start it if they are to pull a little bit of magic. The problem is LFO have come in with a pretty clear game plan here, Dean. 2 smokes, 2 flashes, a molly, and it looks like a full B-site execute on the cards.
Yeah, just a straight up hit, keeping things relatively simple here. Not too complicated, but there is heavy presence. You can see the 2 players that'll be able to rotate quickly in from mid. There's one on scaffold and one at the back of the bomb site. Not going to be an easy time at all, as the initial kills all go the way of the CT side. It's Sprout who shut them down. X in the back does a fantastic job keeping himself alive and just being a massive target so that his teammates could all get in position as well and just make that hell. The initial pistol round goes the way of Sprout.
Lovely way to start it. Smooth, clean, keeping it very simple on both sides of the board, really. Nothing too aggressive or proactive on the CT side of things. T's had their execute, but the molly went the wrong way. Tried to go mid-site. The man on 90 therefore had free reign over the site itself, and X taking full advantage of that, as we know he can. A nice swift triple kill to start things off. Alpha seems a little confused about where he's meant to be playing on this rotation, though, as it is the upgraded pistols, no bomb plant, so Tex and Deagles, and lucky, well, his tech is looking very lucky indeed. Finds one before the trade comes in from Stair, and that early pick over towards the B bomb site is going to cause a couple of slightly hurried rotations here from the CTs.
Slow it down for now, though, by Looking4Org. With an M4 in play, though, there's definitely still a chance to do some more serious damage. Stair's playing pretty aggressive here around the ramp as well, but in a position at least where he can fall back, as you see. Dropping some flashes, just trying to delay this push as much as he can and make Looking4Org take their time as they work for this ground. Very aggressive stance, though, too, pushing forward in the alley as well. This can be dangerous as the flashes don't quite work in favor of the CT side, but the damage is done. That's going to let Stair pretty much just clean things up. Exercise still standing for now, but he's on 11 health and 2 opponents to find. Even with this M4, he's going to have a tough time really finding anything else.
Should just converge on his position, and that's exactly what they do. Again, a little bit sketchier, that one. Stair does well to come away with a triple kill. A little fortunate, I think, on those flashbangs not to be punished. But they get through the round. They keep 2 rifles up on the Sprout side of things. It's a decent start for the CTs. And having dealt with that force buy, which was, of course, the pistols, the armor without the bomb plant going down, this one's going to be a little slimmer pickings. A handful of HEs, a smoke picked up. Doesn't look like LFO want to risk any real pistol upgrades, though. Lucky the only man to try his hand with a P250. They've got their eyes on the buy into the 4th round. So this one, they're hoping for a little bit of a cheese. 4 HEs. Potentially up the ramp towards those sandbags, see if maybe they can catch a man off guard there. We'll have to wait and see where they look to deploy them.
The ramp, unfortunately, on the ramp itself, it doesn't really do any damage, and they're getting cleaned up by those M4s at long range. Just mostly Glocks in play. Clean round, a very clean start to this game in general here from Sprout. I like what we're seeing. We did say Vertigo could be a tough time. They had suffered a heavy defeat to Sangal in their opening round of games. 16-6 was what they lost in that one. And have had a bunch of other 16-6 and 16-7 or so defeats in recent times. So I'm not going to lie, my hopes weren't too high, but this start has given me a little bit of excitement. It's hidden away a little bit. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself. I'm going to wait and see how these initial gun rounds go, but it's creeping in.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. That early 3-0 can instill a false sense of confidence in teams when the rifles come out and things get much more complicated. First time LFO have had their full buy, 5 AK-47s across the board. A very similar look for Sprout. Zyphon, the only player looking for a little bit of a bonus on that MP9. That's being tagged up over towards the B site. There's prods and pokes all over the map from LFO, trying to not let the CTs breathe, but it's Stair who comes out on top. Initial peek down that ramp. Trade will come in from Exercise. Another isolated 1v1 in mid, but this time it works out for LFO.
Yeah, solid enough trade. 4-on-4 is in the position they'll be all too unhappy with, especially a Sprout are taking a massive gamble and actually stacking 3 back towards B. It does seem like for now most of the focus for Looking4Org is over that ramp side of things. Just lucky in position to hold for that aggression in case the B push came true, and it's a fantastic punish on the initial kill. Unfortunately, just decide to stick around, and you have Alpha, the stand-in, who's willing to take some risks and show what he can do. who goes forward and gets that trade once again.
Sprout playing a very risky hold here, though. Completely abandoned the A site off the back of that initial B aggression. Only just now starting to rotate a man in towards the elevators, and that's going to leave a decision for Zello. Mollied off initially. Counter molly goes into the plant spot, so that bomb a little bit stuck, but the molly's just not quite in the right spot. So Hadji should be able to get it down, in fact, with that molly, but a second comes in, starts to tick away even further. 15 seconds left, they'll press the issue. Bomb down in no man's land. It's all on the kills now for LFO, and there's two. Stare with 8 seconds left, looking to protect that bomb, but he's not got the vision he thought he had. 5. They need to hunt their man down, and they will. Maka with the kill. A team effort from LFO, and they get their first T-side round on the board.
All right, yeah, maybe my excitement was coming through a little bit too early. The money's still okay here, though, for Sprout. It's not terrible. The previous round was a relatively competitive one, so it's not like Looking4Org have built up much economy themselves, so they have a chance to fire right back here. They do have the off-in play this time around on towards Zello as well, so we'll see what sort of risks he's going to take in the initial rounds to try and get that initial frag and hopefully go uncontested, which is something they've been struggling with. It's there, though. He's been pretty successful with the opening kills around ramp. Definitely looking for it again. I don't think we're going to see Looking4Org give it.
I think they've started to smell a rat as well, and potentially suspecting that there is a big green gun somewhere on this map. A very passive hold in mid, looking to utilize the headshot angle behind the generator. A handful of players prodding at the ramp, but not really finding anything. Lucky again, trusted initially to solo hold out towards B. Smoke should allow him to isolate this fight onto Lucky if he wants it. Question is, where is the commitment going to be? It looks like LFO are happy to just double back and full commit into this B site with a minute left on the clock. Lacking the util, though. Again, exercise with the molly. He's actually in towards mid, I think. Hadji dropping a lot of util out there as well as he flashes over the top. The man on 90 still yet to be cleared. They have finally started to work out he's got to be there, and as Lucky gets the kill, there's a big call to be made for Sprout here. This is a 4-on-5 retake into that B site. No info, limited util. Do you really want to be throwing the kitchen sink at this one, knowing that LFO have had all the time in the world to get into afterplants, knowing there's still a lurk in mid because he was lobbing nades through the window 20 seconds ago. Without that AWP finding a pick, it becomes an increasingly difficult decision to try and commit in. So Zello is going to start to back away from this one. And Sprout are going to be forced to concede a second round. The perk being they will hold on to 4 rifles. The buy will be decent enough into the next round, but it's still going to go the way of LFO.
Yeah, it'll be a massive help, as you said, in this next round, but I'm not too sure if they're going to be able to get a weapon over to Lewan next. No, doesn't look like it. They'll probably take the eco and not buy up too much more than what they have already just saved over. That would allow them to come out with a relatively okay buy in this next round, as well as having a pretty solid investment with what they've saved over now. But no, it looks like they're willing to back it up with the utility, get the MP9 out as well, and just go all or nothing here, hoping that they can convert it. And, well, you'd want to really, because Looking4Org now over these last couple of rounds, we start to build a bit of an economy on this D side. And again, we come in expecting that Looking4Org will be the favourites here on Vertigo. So if Sprout let things start to spiral early on, could be very bad.
Big decision to make, as you said. The early spiral very much on the cards. LFO with a full buy in the back pocket. Question is, can Sprout pull something out here? Zello in a good position to have some early impact on the AWP. A little bit of an off angle on this corner as well. Has the support, but oh, they transition in front of each other. Exercise catches the freebie. Zyphon, well, he does well on the fam, has to go 1-for-1, quite frankly, and now Stare is desperately trying to rotate in to support that MP9, trying to buy a little bit of time, maybe, and he catches a man with an 8 out, 2 quick kills, and suddenly Stare has bought himself a bit of a clutch here. Bomb down in no man's land, but Maka's having absolutely none of it. Through the smoke, takes his man down. And these CT holds, I don't know about you, Dean, but they are looking very, very hectic to me. They're not feeling particularly stable, even the ones they get over the line.
No, I mean, they're taking a lot of gambles as well. If we go back to, I think it was the first gun round where they gambled the 3 players away from A over towards B, for example. It doesn't feel like they're super confident in their ability to hold these sites unless they take the risks, which is, I mean, a bit of an issue so far. The only player who's really performing seems to be Steer as well. We haven't really had anyone else stepping up massively, so things just aren't really coming together. The pieces aren't fitting for Sprout, unfortunately, as Lau and X get spotted above the smoke and taken down. There is still a few more players around B, but there's only Deagles and 5-7 in play as well. Zyphon hits a decent shot, but he is traded immediately, and again, that's fine. I'm sure it is an AK. As long as they keep these trades going, the round should be theirs without too much trouble. Oh, what a shot.
Ooh. 2v3 now. That bomb again looking a little bit foregone conclusion. Alpha with a decent bit of armor as well. I think the T side's starting to realise that as well. They're taking this a little more sensibly, looking to drop a little more util. Isolate these fights. Alpha will look to retreat and give himself a new angle of choice, but that just allows for those mollies to tick away further at the remaining HP of these pistols. 23 health between the two now as they look for whatever exit damage they can find. But again, a couple of nice picks coming out. Zyphon, Stare each finding a 1 dig, but they're still finding themselves locked out of this B site. Still not a lot they can do. Maybe play for an exit or two here. The other big problem is those 2 rifles picked deep into the B site, so there's not even a recoverable rifle for them to go and have a crack at. Maybe just try and grab a man on the exit. There's a nice tag onto Maka. Alpha hoping maybe at this point the bomb will finish what he started, but LFO will have the lead. They will have their 4th round on the board, and if they can get far enough away from that bomb, they will have 3 players staying alive. Indeed they do. So a solid enough result up against the half buy. Able to get through with 3 rifles alive, keep building up that T-side economy and keep building into this early spiral for Sprout.
Yeah, I need to see them turning it around now, really, in this gun round if I want the hope to come back alive. Stair looks fantastic, though, so I mean, that is one thing. We just need a couple players to step up and assist them. If Zello can find some form on the op, that would be great as well. And looking to try and get something done on mid. Doesn't expect the second player to be close, but does still get out of danger somehow. Follow up, unfortunately, they don't get to keep the advantage as Stair gets mowed down through the smoke over towards that A ramp. That is quite unfortunate. Zello eats an nade on mid as well. They're being pressured heavily around A and mid, which has allowed the A bomb site to be overrun.
Again, that panic of a stack right coming in from Sprout, and now a panicked old retake through the smoke. Somehow, Lau and X is doing everything he can to rescue this situation. A double kill again, catching a couple of LFO players with nades out, but being flanked out all the while. Haji's able to find his mark regardless, and this CT side from Sprout is just looking a little bit all over the shop, and you do have to say maybe that's what happens when your IGL is swapped out constantly here, there, and everywhere, but it's looking pretty dire. I think they need to take a pause at this point. I'd like to see them slow things down. Unfortunately, not got much control over the pace when LFO are setting it as relentlessly as they are now, but use that pause, start to think through a couple of ideas, try and come up with something that's going to be a little more consistent for you on the CT side, because so far, they've really struggled to get anything going at all.
Insert pistols will find some challenges and do good damage with at least within those first few rounds before they get going, but that wasn't really the case for Looking4Org. They were on sleep mode until the first gun round, and then they came awake. So far, haven't looked back. Heavy B stack once again in place, just leaving Lucky as pretty much always, I believe, to hold this flank and make sure that no one's going to push down behind them. Heavy presence on ramp, one holding passively on mid, so they're expecting the aggression. Looking4Org are expecting Sprout to try and swap things up here, knowing that they're not going to have the greatest of buys and that they'll want to take some risks, or at least that's what you'd presume. The risk they have taken, I suppose, is just this stack towards B. I would have liked to have maybe seen some early initiative, though.
Yeah, it's again one of those rounds you've got to try something a bit cheeky. I mean, Sprout's entire CT side at this point has been a revolving door of cheeky plays trying to get around on the board, so you've got to give it a crack.
Repeatedly slapping them in the face?
Pretty much. You would say slapping them on the butt on the way out, but they're not making it through the door at the moment. It's just slamming into them. You're dead right. And this one, again, a little unfortunate. You can say they went for the gamble stack out towards B. Unfortunately, LFO have had a little bit of a prod in the poke. They've decided they like the look of A. They've worked it out. They've executed in. And this is quite possibly one of the dullest rounds of CS you're ever going to get to watch, because it's going to be 5 men looking for exits against 5 rifles who really want to save as LFO get their 6th round on the board. But I think we're starting to get a little bit of a taste now, Dean, of what this is actually going to feel like here on Vertigo, right? You know, those initial 3 rounds off the back of a really nice pistol where Sprout gave you a little bit of hope. They made you believe that maybe there was something in this CT side. And as soon as the rifles have come out, LFO have just started twisting the thumb screws. They really have. That was a dink through a wall for 25. That's something from Stair, but it's going to be a 5-on-5 save regardless.
6-3 now. The names at the top just swapped sides, did they? That was weird. Might make things.
They have. They're now
confusing.
mismatched.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Kind of random. Yeah, I mean, it's a gun round again, at least here for Sprout coming in. Or should we say, Looking4Org? Their new name, they've swapped names officially. Imagine that, Looking4Org found an org mid-game, siphoned Sprout off. It's like, don't worry, you can use our old name.
Oh, we have got some players, unfortunately, dropping out. So we will be, I suspect, they're waiting a little while here while they get this one fixed. Or not. I've said that, and almost immediately we are back in the action. We have got a couple of undefines on the HUD, but that's fine. We can work with that.
It's not often we get a good caster's course. Yeah, I mean, it looked like they were going to have a gun round coming up, no? Oh yeah, there's obviously not a plan to be played here. They are waiting for a restart. Yep, there we go. Take a moment to get the money back to where it needs to be, I suppose. Nope. Berries in? Did they drop Alpha in the middle of the game? This is a slightly strange one. I think we are going to be going to a technical break now here, unfortunately.
won't speak for a couple of weeks. I'll be in his place till he calls and says he's sorry. This situation's on repeat, just like a scratch on a CD. It just gets deeper when you hit rewind. How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending tears and it's blurring your vision. You know he don't love you, hurt you holding on to. Scream through the phone even though he won't listen. So I'm still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here with you. Say that you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than your rescue? I'm feeling kinda used, yeah, like a drug that you take when you're sick of crying all your tears away. Is that all I am? All I want is for you to be happy. You know this ain't healthy. Do I make you happy? How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending years and it's blurring your vision. You know he don't love you, what you holding on to. Scream through the phone even though he won't listen. So I'm still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here with you. Say that you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you rescue? I'm doing everything he doesn't do, but I'm still not enough. Even your parents know I'm good for you, but I'm still not enough.
You wanna be done with him, you're stuck with him, 'cause you don't have the guts. And after all I've done, I'm still not enough.
Still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here with you. Say that you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than your rescue?
Alright, apologies for the delay, but we are back into the action with LFO looking to make their way through this first half without too many more issues here, there and everywhere. 5 on 5. Looks like we've had the last couple rounds replayed. Zello has got his big green gun out again, and another tag onto Jocko down the ramp has left a couple of LFO players a little worse for wear.
I mean, I'm wondering if this break maybe could have done a little bit of good for Sprout. The fact that they got a while to recompose themselves after things had been going so badly. Quite a while. What a shot by Mako. Okay. Wasn't too sure if he had actually seen Stirder or not, but clearly he did. Didn't need to continue seeing him for the shot to land, though. An off battle about to come in, and Maka once again wins it. Zello looked like he was completely set up to have a fairly straightforward shot.
They're still going for B. 28 seconds left. They're going to work their way up the B ramp. They're going to go straight into the stack here. Two players ready and waiting for this hit. They've got to go in dry as well. They want to pull the fake. It's a 3-for-1, and that is an awful call from LFO. Maka doing all the work up A, hoping to draw the rotations away, but this time the gamble from Sprout pays off. And with just 10 seconds left on the clock, he is going to have to look to save that AWP. Nothing more he can say or do about it. An unfortunate one to go against LFO. It looked like they had everything they could possibly need. But it's Sprout who managed to get their round.
Yeah, maybe break did do them a little bit of good. Not too sure what the actual issue was. I think we had lost Alpha, was it? So they weren't able to include him in whatever discussions were being had. Well, having issues most likely. Clearly they have a bit of a plan in mind now that they've come back and hopefully will be swinging. Rather than completely missing. There. In his pretty standard position that we see him towards at the start of every round. Be Looking4Org trying to again make their way up this ramp pretty early on and get the punishment. Heavy nades back in towards the sandbags, but not going to do too much right now. But they're getting a lot of ground. They are using a ton of utility to achieve it, sure.
It's going to be a reaggression here. CT side is setting up for it. 3 players in position. Pot flash in. They want this fight. 3 players, in fact, taking the ramp. Zello alone down the lane. He's going to get his opportunity up close and personal. Lands the flick onto Jocko. First man goes down, and that starts to push LFO away from this A site just a little bit. And you can see the CT side know what's going on. They've got a fantastic read on this situation. 3 players now just death falling into mid. And if they catch the timing right here, they're going to catch multiple players waiting for this hit to come through. 45 seconds left. T-side really with no control to work on. A lovely little flick from Zello catches the leg of Exercise. And Sprout seemingly having come alive in that tech pause now, stripping this T-side of any offensive capability into this one. Lucky's still stuck on the ramp. Alnex looking to readjust and reposition into that one. And, well, they are just going to get picked off piece by piece here. Exercise down to 2, trying to get a little bit of something done. Maka with the bomb on his back, hoping that maybe he can find a little bit of a timing to work his way out into that A site and at least get this bomb down. But he's going to lose all his teammates in the meanwhile, and that means it's a one-man army here up against the world. He will at least get this bomb down, but it's been heard. He's being charged down already. Surely no breathing room in this one, and a missed shot is punished. Sprout have their 5th, and a really revitalized CT side coming in, Dean. Very different look to what we saw before the break.
Yeah, it looks like Lau and X has come alive. Alongside that, though, they're willing to take some more risks with the aggression as we see in, and now that they're actually hitting some shots, that's paying off for them as well. So we'll see if this continues. For now, though, things are certainly looking on the up for Sprout. The economy's still there to fund the buys, though, for Looking4Org. Maka's going to get his op as well, but he's the only one that's really going to have any money left after this round. So Sprout do manage to tie things up at 6-6. They should have a 7th round relatively easy off the back of it. At that point, they'll be in the lead, which would have looked pretty much impossible before that break we had a while ago. So we'll see exactly how it's going to play out. What is going on? I don't think we're live.
This looks like Maka is looking very, very AFK. 12 grand, a Glock.
Fun times.
Not a lot else. So I suspect that everyone's having a little bit of a KZ movement because we're going to get some players dropping out sooner rather than later. Hadji doesn't look too great either, seeing as he's just left the server entirely. It does look like, unfortunately, we've got some extension of the tech issues. I think initially it was actually Sprout who had them. We saw Alpha dropping out, Barry then filling the slot, then Alpha coming back in before we threw to the break. And then they had to replay some rounds. Now it looks like we've lost Hadji, so expect we'll be getting the match medic in again shortly before we can get back into the action.
Yeah, it's one of those best of 3s. It's not separated into maps, it's separated into groups of 3 rounds.
And we get a lovely 5-minute tech pause in between every 3 rounds just to really let it sink in. Hopefully we'll find out sooner rather than later what's going on. Yeah. Fingers crossed we will get some information across. There really isn't a lot to talk about at this point. It's far too early into the series to be making any sweeping assumptions about anything. You've got the initial 3-round spree from Sprout, then LFO looked like they were just going to wipe this map out. Then we go to the tech break, we come back. Sprout looked like a very different CT side, looked a lot more competent, a lot more postured than they did. Wonder if this next tech pause that we're almost inevitably going to get will then cause them to go back to being the floundering mess that they were on the CT side for the middle 6 rounds that we've had so far. But hopefully, while I waffle on about Sprouts, it's completely inconsistent CT side, my wonderful production team will get back to me with if we're going to throw this one to a break or if we're going to wait, because I have no idea how long this pause is going to be. I suspect what we're getting now is the match medic coming in as we are resetting things, and Berry has now died, which is intentional because we don't want Berry in the server. He should be in that coaching slot instead. Just looking, we've got 2 alphas now in the server, actually playing slots 6. He's playing for LFO now. We've changed the lineups, we've changed the org, just to keep it interesting, really. Maka didn't fancy playing this one.
Shuffle it up. Yeah, we have just got a bit of news that unfortunately we are going to be waiting a little bit longer while the issues are ironed out. So with that, again, we are going to throw it over to a quick break. Stick with us, guys, and hopefully we'll be back into the action soon.
Is it paused? Is it live? Nobody knows, but we do have a game on our hands. It is 6-all, with Sprout looking much, much better than they were in those opening moments. And Zello now looking to take full advantage of a wide swinging T side. LFO just sending 2 players to their deaths, Jocko and Haji. Swinging wide into Zello's AWP doesn't feel like the way to go, and they are punished accordingly. So an early 3-on-5 now for Sprout to continue their resurgence in this first half CT side, Dean.
Zello continuing to look for these battles despite the 2-man advantage already in play. The fact that he was continuing to show his presence there, though, will keep Looking4Org on the back foot now as they're trying to pull things back from this 3-on-5, so it will make it a bit more difficult. As a strong setup is in place, Zello sticking around in the alley is going to be mollied off, though, so we can't do too much about that right now. There's a teammate in our sandbags as well. There's only 30 seconds on the clock by the time these exchanges play out. There's just not really going to be the time there for Looking4Org anymore to get in onto that bomb site, so they're going to need to be incredibly efficient with these initial entries.
Yeah, and with Alpha playing up close and personal, that's going to be incredibly tough to do. I think they bail out, yeah. Not that Alpha's going to let them, because he looks at the peak over the top of the smoke and starts to strip away what little they were going to save into the next round here. Maka at least able to trade that. That is, well, it's a round. A little bit all over the shot from LFO, if we're being honest. A couple of initial peeks into an AWP, just giving him free aim practice, if nothing else. He picks those 2 off relatively freely. And then they slowly wind the clock down, doing not much of anything before realizing that they haven't got any time left anyway. So they're just going to be forced to save. And it's left their economy in a bit of a precarious spot, if we're being honest. There's a little bit of money floating around, so they will be able to get the buy into the next one. But for LFO, considering how dominant their initial T rounds looked, this is a real shock and a real turn up for the books. Feels like they very much need to change the pitch here, and an aggressive run boost catches Lauenex completely unawares. He drops a nade onto himself in his confusion. Does damage to himself Pokemon style when he's confused, but does manage to get away with it, manages to reset into the B site, and forces again LFO into a relatively standard default.
Which hasn't been working out too well for Looking4Org over these past few rounds. It'll be interesting to see when they start to make some adjustments of their own. Now the Sprout have done so. Pushing the off the angle at least, and the wall bang in on towards Stair. Not sure exactly how they knew he was there. Must have got the vision before as Joko follows up with a second. They might just continue to push the issue here. One more player spotted in on that bomb site towards the headshot angle, but the smoke goes down. But the nade damage I don't think is going to stop Looking4Org at this point, as they even have a player in mid to cut off this rotation. Although Lauenex gets himself a kill, Zyphon's going to catch the timing on Exercise, and suddenly we have a 3-on-3.
And we play that age-old game, where is the bomb? Bottom of the A ramp is the answer today. As Maka will be forced to go and recover it. And now, as those smokes start to fade, they haven't got the utility to replace them. We've wasted a good 30 seconds getting that bomb back in towards this site. There's HEs available to try and stack up against the planter as well. Bomb in the hands of Maka, though, will get his freebie. Lauan swinging a little bit too wide, manages to punch the digits in before the HEs start to land, tags him down to 18, but that won't be enough. Smoke goes out for the CT side in the 2-on-3. Zyphon and Alpha thinking about giving this one a go, but instead it's the AK salvaged for both of these players, the retreat into the relative safety of the B bomb site. And this game is absolute carnage. You have to say it's getting very scrappy towards the back end of this first half, but LFO will be grateful to get that round on the board, get a little bit of something to work with. Jocko with a couple of very nice entries up the A ramp, and an opportunity with that CT economy still relatively on a knife's edge. If they can take this next one, get a 9-6 half on the board on their map T side, that's not a bad result at all.
No, I think both teams are in an okay position right now. Sprout have had a solid recovery from what was a really slow start. Obviously, they're going to want to add maybe one more round at least to be really happy with how the half has gone, but they've turned things around for sure. We've seen them all start to find some individual form as well, which looked to be one of the bigger issues early on. Looking4Org have given us a little bit there to be excited about. Once again, we'll see if that continues as Maka catches Lauan as he puts that molly down, willing to take the few points of damage that it cost them. Give a very early open, and then Zello, I think, burning wherever the hell he's at as well, down towards 36 health. Things are not looking good for Sprout early on.
Nice pick from the AWP of Maka. It's what we like to see him do, playing that dynamic AWP's what he does best. And Jocko again, raining down havoc on the A ramp. Finding himself a lovely little vein of form, just what the doctor ordered for LFO. Buys his team a 3-on-5. At this point should be a relatively simple affair again, just about grouping up, executing cleanly. As once more, Sprout have gone for this gamble stack over towards the B site. Two players, one in towards mid. They are going to abandon A, and we've seen this from them consistently. So at this point, LFO should have a pretty decent read on what happens when we get into these advantageous 4v5, 3v5 situations. Bomb starts to make its way up the ramp, and indeed, as the execute starts to come in from LFO, it's going to be into a wide open site. CTs will likely be saving for the last round of this first half because they have got no money left in the bank at all.
Save isn't even going to be easy with Lucky's position. Should at least have to drop on one, potentially more. The first, the second won't be allowed by Alpha, but he does still take quite a bit of damage. So if Looking4Org want to, they can send further players out hunting for this, and that looks to be the case. Make things a bit more complicated. The molly makes it extra spicy if they do want to push through now. Might actually
flank coming in as well.
But yeah, as you said, time should still allow for this flank to get into position. They're just waiting it out. Stair gets himself one through the smoke, but it's damage Looking4Org can afford, and Sprout on the other hand cannot. Alpha, he might just hang on, but he's going to need this final kill most likely, and there it is. He takes out Haji and will hang on to the AK in the end. It's one weapon at least carried forward, but it cost them a lot. He'll be able to drop an M4, actually dropped an op over. Okay, cool. So Zello gets that into his hands, and some FAMASs and MP9s are going to be going around.
I like the call. It's been where a lot of that CT success has come from, right? Zello getting picks on the AWP, playing proactively with it, so getting it in his hands again, try and replicate some of that. It's not a bad decision by any means. The problem is there's sacrifices all over the shop elsewhere. Lauan MP9ing, Stair MP9ing, Zyphon FAMASing, and LFO looking to pile on. The pressure do end up wandering through a molly somewhat there. A lot of damage done to Haji in these opening moments, the kind of damage that an MP9 can do a lot of heavy lifting towards. Molly will go in, counter util is good though. Lauan able to escape up towards B as Zello once again wants to have some impact on this AWP. Nice HE damage over on B. There is chaos going on everywhere on the map right now. But it remains for the time being a 5v5.
Yeah, early damage exchange, but as you said, no frags fully taken as of yet. Looking4Org group towards the ramp. Yeah, that push down B is going to give it away. Should be able to rotate players into position here. Zello, the first line of defense with the op as well, does indicate that they are at least up close already as the op battle comes through, but Zello overextends. pushes right into the scope of Maka. Another entry goes the way of Looking4Org as they move in, and things are just not working out for these weaker weapons. The SMGs do their best and pull back a couple of kills, but it's going to be an incredibly difficult retake, especially with no utility and no kit.
Couldn't afford Zella to go down that easily, I think, is the ultimate problem here. Zyphon now, with a FAMAS out of heaven, he's got to try and pull off the impossible. Bomb is well planted for the T-side after plant as well, open to the ramp, so with no utility, Zyphon and Stare going to be forced to take these fights. Lucky, first one up on the chopping block. Stare will keep the pre-fight going to take him down, and this starts to get a little interesting now as Maka peeks wide, will expose himself for just a moment, but it's 9-6, and LFO recover as we head to the halftime break.
You love it, you wear it. What's your style? Get your merch at shop.eslgaming.com.
Break up, don't speak for a couple of weeks. I'll be in his place till he calls and says he's sorry. This situation's on repeat, just like a scratch on a CD. It just gets deeper when you hit.
A piecemeal first half, but it is LFO who take the lead 9-6 as they head over to the CT side of Vertigo. An opportunity to get this one shut down before it gets too spicy. And before we head to that second map, of course. Faster play from Sprout in these initial moments, though, as they work their way up this A ramp. There's Julies to face them, but Stare has ripped the head clean off the first. And Maka got to be a little bit careful now with Exercise recovering the dual Berettas that he doesn't die going too proactively down the ramp. Does opt to back away at the last possible moment, and a little bit of a stalemate in the 4-on-4. That is a genius play from Sprout. The footsteps bait the CT side almost entirely away from the A site, and it allows Sprout to plan out their execute at will. Maka on the Julies is trying to swarm in as quickly as he can. The footsteps surely to be heard, though, as Alpha then Stare take a frag apiece, and suddenly 2-on-3, that bomb will go down around the edge of the smoke. Spam from Exercise, not quite connecting on these dual Berettas. And again, lacking util to make this retake a reality. Haji now dinked on down. This is looking better and better for Sprout. Someone needs to change the picture. Exercise trying to be that man for his team, but it's a one and done as again, Haji, with just 16 HP, has got to pull off what is surely the impossible here. Tapping away, looking for what he can, but it's never going to happen. 7 on the board. Sprout continue their pistol round success.
Yeah, I mean, Haji may as well just save the Kevlar forward at this point. Again, we get a little bit of life. We're getting kind of bursts of 3 to 6 rounds from either team before the other one comes back and shows a little bit of their own success. We did see a similar affair in the first half, though, of course, where Sprout got that pistol. They had a clean initial 3 rounds and then just kind of lost all life once the guns actually came into the hands of Looking4Org. So we've got to wonder if something similar could happen, or maybe Looking4Org want to try and spice it up with a force buy and see if they can force the issue a bit earlier. But no, happy enough to just go for the eco. Even Haji has the USB, the Kevlar saved forward, but is happy to stick to the USB. Didn't even want to put a P250 into play. Doesn't really have the economy for it, in fairness, if they want to buy next round, but it is just an interesting little thing. It's not too often you see Kevlar and no pistols upgraded.
I think it comes from maybe a little bit of respect for Sprout. Their T side is their by far best side here on Vertigo, so maybe just knowing that this is going to get tougher before it gets easier, knowing that having the rifles into round 3 could be of great value rather than chancing your arm with a force, knowing you're coming up against majority rifles, in this case just the 1 MAC-10 for Xiphon, and hoping that a very unique boost, I will say, not one that I've seen pulled out before, maybe finds a little bit of purchase and maybe gets something done. Unfortunately, the bomb is working its way out towards B, and much like Sprout's initial CT stacks on these ecos, it's not going to be tested. The utility goes out, at least a little bit of money spent by the T side with those mollies coming in, and the B site is taken freely.
Yeah, not really much that could be done about it. They took the risk, they took a gamble, which I liked. If it hadn't been a push-up ramp, they likely would have caught 1 or 2 players off guard and potentially stolen some weapons, done some further damage, or who knows, maybe even got something out of it. Instead, they took a risk, it didn't pay off, and at the very least, they should have Haji's Kevlar to save forward again. It'll actually help a little bit in this next round where the utility...
I mean, they might not get anything, because Xiphon is about to charge through with a flashbang and a MAC-10, and there is a lot of bodies here waiting for him. Yeah, this is starting to get real ugly for LFO. 3 kills. That Kevlar that we were hoping would be saved across is gone, and the USP's no armor at this point are running away to try and make sure they don't die to a MAC-10. It's a little bit comic relief from LFO, but the round is done regardless. It's 9-8, and for the first time we should get to see what they're really made of on the CT side of Vertigo. By either. 5 rifles. The utility is going to be the issue. Always is when you opt against that second round force buy. M4s prioritised over util on this occasion, which gives that T side a little bit of something to leverage. Having kept all 5 rifles up in the previous, able to reinvest heavily into the utility, pull a little bit of a bonus round out their back pocket. Counter is pulled. Every cheeky play in the book being pulled out by LFO. Initially a little bit of a one-way smoke over a molly down the side lane this time. Going to boost a man up with the spam to protect his position initially. And near enough a complete gamble stack out of this B site because Hadji has snuck himself into a corner and Lawanex has no idea he's here. So Hadji's just going to play the info game here. I think hoping to draw more attention than he has in these opening moments. Finally has to pull the trigger, gets rid of Lawanex, but it's going to be this hit in towards the A side. Finally the boost pays off for Maka, and it pays off in a big way. Strips him down into a 3-on-2. Their position now known on the CT side, but there's 2 men there, and they trade it cleanly down. The pre-fire from Maka connects, and LFO finally get their CT side rolling. Double digits on the board, 3 rifles saved across, and something to get them moving in this second half of Vertigo.
Apologies, my vMix connected back before my Discord there. Yeah, had a random PC crash. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Didn't get a blue screen or anything. It just restarted itself out of nowhere. Very strange. Either way, looks like I did miss a little bit, as it's now Looking4Org who seem to have themselves control of the situation. Although again, I come back at the perfect time. We have a pause going. Was it a tactical this time around?
I think it must have been.
It seemed like that was the case. We're fortunate.
It wasn't. It was actually just...
Oh.
What? Oh, wait. Here we go. So, Sprout called a tactical. I'm reading the logs here. And then LFO have called a technical. Now, it doesn't look like a massively long-term one, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't take too long to get this one resolved for us. Has been a little bit of one of those games, unfortunately. Happens in the online era of CS. Things don't always go according to plan. People's internet drop out, spill tea on your keyboard, all those classic onliner problems. Hopefully they will get resolved sooner rather than later, though, and we will get back into the action. Because it's a good old buy for both sides here. This could be one of those big swing rounds in this second half. Sprout take it over the line. They really start to assert themselves. Their T side starts to build momentum, and it's Looking4Org trying to push back an avalanche. But I think LFO will know, based on that first half's proceedings, that if they can establish themselves early here, if they can push for a nice clean one, get these rifles out the way once from the T side, it's not going to take too long for them to just start rolling through, getting those remaining rounds done and dusted.
Yeah, in fairness though, with the side of Sprout we've been seeing here on Vertigo, I am hopeful for their performance going forward on Ancient and Inferno. They haven't looked terrible, this just isn't one of their best maps. It has been very inconsistent for them in general. Looks like the pause has been removed anyway, so we're ready to get back into it now.
Lovely stuff.
Pretty solid investment on both sides as well. I mean, some weaknesses, the utility could be slightly better, although they still have money, so they should be buying up the rest of the nades there for Looking4Org. And then Sprout, on the other hand, just have a small weakness, I suppose, with one Galil in play in the hands of Alpha.
It's not the worst situation in the world for a T side, though. That Galil's still perfectly serviceable, especially with Maka sacrificing the head armor. Still plenty of potential for it to do some damage, and it's going to get its chance as well, working up this A ramp very swiftly. Sprout, we've seen this from them a couple of times, wanting to take the fight to the CTs as soon as possible. The util exchange, flashes go in, they want to try and counter here on the CT side, but the spam through the smoke is good, blinded or not. Alpha's Galil does find first blood, and the spray down good for the second. Maka, now out in no man's land, is absolutely trapped. He's being tagged down slowly but surely through the smoke, and there's the kill. And as soon as they get it, they just disconnect. LFO wanted that brawl on the ramp, they got what they asked for, and they were demolished by it. Lawanex, this time, without Hadji there for the backstab, will work his way for free in towards this B site. The bomb will make its way back around and go down freely, and at this point, it should be a save for the CTs. 9 on the board for Sprout, and this is a revitalized T side.
Yeah, again, it's like every time there's a pause, they flip their switch on and off, so it's their turn again to have some success. Eventually, if there's no more pauses, they can keep it going. Doesn't look like there's going to be much of a hunt going for these remaining 2 weapons either. I don't think they're too interested in taking them away. Even with the 2 M4s being saved forward, the economy's still going to be pretty poor for Looking4Org. Sprout shouldn't have a lot to worry about apart from these saved weapons. Although they could maybe force the issue if they want, since Maka will have enough to buy, but it would be a risky investment. We'll see exactly what they want to go for. Sprout are keeping it competitive. In fairness, though, they have won out both of the pistol rounds. So in the gun rounds, success has mostly gone towards Looking4Org, but Sprout have kept themselves in it, and I mean, that's all that really matters. If they can start winning out some of these important swing rounds now, then they could definitely propel themselves towards that finish line.
The CT economy is always a precarious thing in the current meta, and you can see it here. Timeout call by LFO as they try and work out how they can stitch it together, if they even want to commit to it, because as you look down that CT side, Maka, sure, he could invest, but he's not going to get the AWP. It would have to be a rifle. Exercise could maybe drop across to Jocko, but it would be another scrappy buy. It would be another one where they've not quite got the nades to play how they want to play. They're playing on the back foot before the rounds even started, and we've seen how they want to play this CT side LFO. They've been pushing, they've been proactive, they've been looking for fights. You need utility to sustain that. And so I think the only decision they can realistically make at this point is, save it up. Let the two rifles of Exercise and Hadji go to work, see what they can find, and hope that maybe, just maybe, they can nab a couple of rifles on the extremities of this map and use that to then grab a couple of rifles into some of the pistol players, maybe start to spiral things out of control from there. Otherwise, well, you're looking to live to fight another day.
Sprout aren't given an inch, though. They know even with this much weaker investment, a couple of weapons could still cause a lot of trouble. Even the pistols themselves are due, as Lowen finds the opening kill. If he goes to find the head again, did he spot him? No, not quite. As he comes in, though, will indeed be a decently controlled AK spray there to finish him off. Strange battle brought down that 5 health as well, and Maka did recover the rifle to try and put in some more damage, but he just can't get it done. The T-bomb site is being overrun. Stair creeps his way up the A ramp in the meantime to catch the back of the players rotating, and on Hadji, and he's been hunted. Gonna get 1 kill, which doesn't really mean too much at this point. Taking out a play. It was again just the 2 saved weapons, though, so I mean, 1 kill, it's better than nothing, but the economy's still there for Sprout. The 1 reinvestment isn't going to cost them too much. They have enough in the bank for a buy if needed. And they've tied things up at 10-10.
I think you can fairly safely make the argument that if you've saved 2 rifles, you're looking for 2 kills as a minimum, right? So I think that is still a little bit of a letdown for LFO. They would have been hoping for more. 2, 3 kills would, start to put the economy in a backwards position for Sprout, which is exactly what they need. As this buy comes in, though, the pressure right back on the CT side. Spam through onto Zello. Does find some connection. Down to 45. Not quite the kill. So there's going to be some cheeky plays from Sprout as well. HE stack forces Exercise out of his position of choice. Will have to replay towards the back of sight. And Sprout are going to abuse that, knowing that they've cleared out the initial of the close angles. They look for the boost up. Managed to make a mess of it the first time. Managing to make a mess of it the second time. Alpha, of course, the stand-in, the new boy on the block, doesn't quite know his lineups as well as Sprout would like, but the counter-aggression's been read here and beautifully read by Stair. Almost hung his AWPer out to dry, but manages to pivot just as Lucky wants to push on through. And that's the man advantage turn 2 as Lowen takes advantage of the mispositioned Exercise over on B, and this is going from bad to worse now. Lowen, he's out on B, and anything else he can find as a bonus finally put down with Maka finding a pick over on A. Suddenly, this one does start to pivot just a little bit. Alpha working his way around this flank with Jocko now tagged down low as well. This is going to go back the way of Sprout. Surely Alpha gets a free double kill here. Nobody is looking for him. They've only just started to realize this is a possibility. There's the first. He's going to play the trigger discipline, and it's an easy double up for the new kid. Maka's pick, nothing to say for it. And a 1v2 for the AWPer out towards this B site. The chaos reigns supreme for Sprout, and I don't think Maka wants anything to do with it.
Since Alpha reconnected at, I believe it was a 6-3 scoreline, he's managed to go 14-3. He is having a fantastic performance and really has been one of the main players that's allowed for Sprout to turn things around from what looked pretty bad early on. Alongside Lowen, Stairs kept up a pretty solid performance as well. Zyphon's had his moments. Zello's been a bit quiet, although he did have a few rounds after they came back, which turned the initial tide, so everyone certainly contributed. As Maka just looks to save the ops, Sprout are going to put themselves into the lead now. and should have a 12th round likely going their way before the real buy can come into play here for Looking4Org. There'll be a few pistols maybe around this up, but I'm not expecting much more.
Alarm bell's starting to ring for LFO, I suspect. As we said, this is a good veto for them, so that second map, not bad by any means, but considering the statistical difference between LFO and Sprout on this first map, if they lose it, it's going to feel very, very tough to come back from. As you said, upgraded pistols around the AWP of Maka really becomes up to him to be the difference maker in this one. Takes it out towards B initially. Looking to mix it up a little bit. Hasn't played too proactively with it though. An initial peek towards the B ramp, hoping maybe for someone to overextend. Nothing seen, nothing given, so he'll back out. Look to instead occupy towards mid, as the majority of Sprout are working their way up towards this B site hit. Plenty of presence here. The utility over the top and Exercise, you've got to feel bad for him. He's going to have to try and bail. Sets himself up on any kind of an angle he can find, but the flashes are good. The mid rotation's already starting to be cut away by Zyphon, and with Maka not hitting his first shot, this one feels like it's a foregone conclusion. The AK is just chipping away slowly but surely at the backs of pistols as they look to retreat. 12. Pretty much an inevitability. You never fully want to jinx it as a caster, but as Stare finds his mark onto Exercise, it should just be a matter of stripping away these remaining bits and pieces if Sprout want to commit to it. Given their economy, you could understand them wanting to build up a little more bank in the back pocket, being happy to let that AWP save across again, because quite frankly, it's not had too much impact since it came out.
Yeah, and I mean, with the loss bonus going as well, Maka, I think, will be able to buy one anyway, so sure, they take it away, but really all they're doing is ensuring that he doesn't have a little bit of extra cash in the reserve. So I don't think it's worthwhile. As you said, sure, they have decent money themselves already, but it's 12-10. There's still a few rounds where things could go wrong. If they can have as stable of an economy as possible, then that's a big up. So happy enough to just keep everyone standing. 12-10, it's going to be a full gun round now coming through, as we said. Maka will get a good set of utility behind his up. He can grab a helmet if he wants. I don't think he's going to really bother with that, rather, since they're up against the AKs. There's only one M4 carried through by Alpha, which he's been rocking for a while. We'll see now if that comes back to bite him, maybe.
Just initial util up the ramp, but this time Maka will get his spot. Peering down into the depths of A main. Seems the call is to play proactively across the board for LFO. Peeking down the ramp with Maka on A, smokes out on B. Solo's going to play the fade, and it's going to betray him. Maka, first time in a while he's had that opening advantage out of the AWP. Really has been one of the star players for this LFO lineup here on map 1, so good to see him getting an early pick. And it's really funneling Sprout now in towards this B site. They're going to give the boost another crack here. Alpha this time manages to get himself spotted, popped in the right spot, but Exercise is ready and waiting for it, watching exactly where that boost would come to fruition, takes out the free kill. And at this point, 3v5 should be relatively difficult to lose this for LFO. In all reality, Exercise just needs to remain posted. Can use that smoke if he wants to reposition as well. Angle's well established for the CT side, and at this point, yeah, it's just about maybe chipping away. Alpha does manage to at least catch Exercise, a little bit of a gap in the smoke to try and exploit, and that's going to drag a second rotation, but again, the utility available, and with just 30 seconds left on the clock, should be relatively well placed on the CT side to deal with this. Jocko inside of the site, Hadji fast rotate over Heaven, and with just a handful of flashes remaining for this T side, that one smoke from Zyphon is going to have to try and get him into a plant if they want to try it. Jocko and Hadji, though, remaining posted. There's the smoke, and there's the kill. Alpha catches Hadji completely unaware as Stare finds another, and suddenly Sprout have found their form again. 4 on 3, turn 2. As Lucky, thinning the numbers, does what he can, but he leaves his AWP Maka, the hero for LFO so far. 1v2 as he misses his second. Tag down to 34. Zyphon repositions, puts himself on an off angle, actually drops down entirely. Maka has the kit, can look to stick this if he wants it. Taps instead, tries to bait Zyphon into the peak, but the flick misses again, and now Zyphon, with a decision to make, is not going to peek it in time. The stick has landed, and LFO get the miracle round.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it was in much of a position that he could see from there, was it? The plant?
It didn't seem it. He
Yeah.
kind of had a jump peek angle onto it, I think, but not enough.
Yeah, not a way to properly take the fight and play the time on the bomb. I think it was a little bit of a miscommunication. Although he didn't, it looked like he didn't intend to drop down initially when he was jumping up on the wooden panel. I think he accidentally jumped another time while he was already on it and made noise. And at that point was like, yeah, okay, I better bail and not leave myself here as an open target for the op. And then things just kind of went south, as we see. And it gives a lifeline back to Looking4Org. They get an 11th round. Their economy doesn't look great though, so the buy back into this round is, well, it's got all the weaponry at least and decent utility, but it leaves them with absolutely nothing in the reserve. So if Sprout managed to come back and take this round immediately afterwards, then it's going to be trouble for Looking4Org. And I think they realized that. We did have a tactical pause. I'm not sure who by, but I think both teams will probably appreciate the time. It was LFO.
LFO take it. It's understandable, isn't it? As you said, the economy's right on the edge of being solid, so looking to work out exactly what they want to buy, exactly how they want to play this. Certainly not sustainable to rely on a 1v1 ninja defuse to be getting your rounds through. They want to play proactively again, at least in these initial moments. They are trying to set themselves up for these peaks. There's Zello, though. Ready and waiting for that one. Lucky gives him the freebie. LFO, that aggression from the previous round, try to replicate it, and this time it is punished to the fullest extent. Lauenex spotted as well. He's able to drop off before he takes any real damage, and that opening man advantage, Sprout again just starting to pull the strings of the defense in terms of rotations. Maka, for now, cutting a very isolated figure on the A ramp itself, not even in a passive spot. He's got a man close to him on the left instead who's watching for the alley peek. And Macro's still sticking around on this one. He wants these fights, gets himself one, but surely that's it. And indeed, Zello is there for the trade. One and done out your star AWPer just doesn't quite feel like enough for LFO. They're going to scramble to try and get some placement inside of this A site. But only 2 players here to receive with 45 seconds left. The utility locking all sight lines out. Not that it matters for Jocko. Spam through. Buys just a little bit of time. And maybe, just maybe, a way for LFO to get back into this one. They want to contest it. Pop flash through. They'll realize the A site is empty. But where is that bomb heading? Slowly but surely, it's trying to work its way back towards B. And hoping that Xiphon can maybe cut the rotations. Or is it? They fake the footsteps. They fake the play. Jocko gets the pick on mid. But that bomb is going to work its way back up towards a relatively undefended A site.
But now they're outnumbered, and as you can see, there is one player moving in. Zello was going to shut him down. Joko moving a bit too soon, perhaps. Wanted to try and put in a little bit more damage, rather than keeping the advantage that they would have had in play for this retake. Now it's down to Exercise and Haji to pull off the 2-on-2 retake. They don't have a kit in play. The nearest one I can see immediately anyway is down on the ramp, as you can see in the view of Zello. As the smoke goes in towards the bomb site, Alpha standing his ground. The off angle will give him at least one, and it is successful, but now it's the off up against the player in the smoke. As I said, though, no kit. The nade goes down. The Glock could finish him as the damage is being done, and there you go. With about 3 or 4 seconds, I'd imagine, judging by the bar at the top remaining on that defuse, he will be taken out.
One of those situations where a defuse kit, that little bit extra bit of economy for the CT side, could have made all the difference. Another round. I mean, we said it, it's not consistent to rely on ninja diffusers to get your CT rounds going. They go for it again. This time they're punished. Economy is in tatters. It's a decent half buy, but not a lot more than that for the LFO boys. And for Sprout, this is going to be a massive confidence builder now. They actually take the time out to work out how to shut the door on this one. Opposition's map pick. A map they're not particularly confident on. A map that all the statistics lean towards LFO in. Golden opportunity for them to take the momentum. Just 3 rounds required, and this one should be a lock-in. Handful of pistols. Haji on an MP9. It is going to take something spectacular from the Frenchman if they want to make this one stick.
Control now for Looking4Org. Gonna have one more real gun round, and if that doesn't work out, then likely they're going to be down a map. We'll be heading on towards Ancient with Sprout in a solid position, going on towards their own map choice, which was not something we were expecting coming into this series. They've been helped by the fact that the pistol rounds have gone well for them, but they've also been very good at adjusting. making the changes when needed when things do begin again to go wrong. They've had some fortune on their side, but that's always the case in Counter-Strike.
Gotta ride your luck. Aggression down B, though, for LFO has started to reveal that this is going to be an A-site hit before it comes in. 55 seconds left. They pull the trigger. There is going to be presence, and that nade does a huge amount of damage. 3 players tagged down heavy. Starts to open up the potential of these pistols, and indeed the SMG's up close. An early 1-for-1 trade. You can see Alpha tagged up desperately low. Zello is trying to protect that bomb planter, and they're just about holding on to it here. Tapping away at the head. Zyphon gets the job done. Could have got very, very sketchy there for a moment. You could see those tags being converted on and how the round could so quickly spiral away. But LFO, I think, just getting that read a handful of seconds too late. If they were there 5 seconds earlier, it's a completely different round, but just a little slow to the mark. Gives Sprout their 14th, and this is it now. LFO on their map pick. This is a must-win round to keep their hopes of taking map 1 alive.
Exercise is on a mad one right now. He's angry. Things have not been going well. They need something, but it's not going to work out. It's backfired, and things have just spiraled out of control completely. This round is almost over before I can even catch a breath. Honestly, I don't think I took a single breath in that round.
Didn't have time. Didn't have time. The oxygen just evaporated from the room as just picks taken all over the shop. LFO tried to be proactive. That's been how their CT rounds have come to them, is when they played in that aggressive way and looked for those early kills. But Sprout are reading it now. They're ready and waiting for it. A nice double peek into B, trades out that initial play. Zello is well positioned to trade out his teammates' deaths up the A ramp, just consistently chipping away on that AWP. I think he's disconnected at some point, so his stats are somewhat misleading, but he's looked very, very solid. The pause comes in at 15. And Zello as well, I think.
Zello
Alpha's flying.
Yeah, Alpha did disconnect at some point, and I don't know if he had any kills before the disconnect.
We'll have to wait and see for the post-game stats, but this last buy coming in for LFO.
He just went to reset his deaths. That's why we had that technical pause.
Yes.
He's like, you know what, this
Make
hasn't
the KD
started
look
well.
better.
Yeah. Doesn't help for his HLPV, unfortunately. As a desperate round is needed here from Looking4Org. 4 in a row for overtime. It's achievable, but it's not looking like it's going to be achievable right now, unfortunately. Leonex takes 2 of them as he charges into B. Takes the bomb site completely, and with panic and flustered players everywhere else, unfortunately, they're going to make similar mistakes as they push into the waiting arms of Sprout. It's a 5-on-2. This looks like it's done and dusted.
2 MP9s. To pull off the impossible. They're spotted as well. A 1-for-1 trade just isn't quite enough. And Maka, he's been the shining light for this CT side, but he's not going to be any more than that. It is Sprout who take their opposition's map pick. They take Vertigo. And what a way to do it as well. I mean, that map just didn't have LFO showing up, if we're being very brutally honest, right? Maka pulled up a couple of very, very big rounds on the AWP. He really was the shining light, but the frags just came so much more consistently across the board for Sprout than they did for LFO. Everyone was contributing, especially in that second half for Sprout. Everyone was chipping away. Everyone was finding entries, and LFO just didn't seem to have the answers. They had 1 or 2 ideas on their CT side. Nothing quite stuck. It makes me wonder if their coach is still with the org or whether they still have their coach, because it definitely felt like they lacked sort of a 3rd or a 4th idea on that CT side, right? They had 2 strats. They played passive. It failed. They played aggressive. They got picked, and it just fell apart from there.
Yeah, and I mean, they did look fantastic early on up until the point where it was 6-3. Then the pause came in. They were sitting around for a while. It gave Sprout time to talk about what was going wrong, what they could adjust. And we just didn't see any similar adjustments coming in from Looking4Org. And then the same thing kind of happened going into that second half. And by that point, Sprout themselves were just all fired up individually. So it became just exponentially harder. So yeah, things went south. Now we're moving forward onto Ancient, which it should, in theory, fare a little bit better for Sprout. It's not as strong of a map for Looking4Org either. They actually have more reps on it than they do on Vertigo, though, surprisingly. But this is the map that we were saying Sprout had their chance to take. We thought they were going to need to take map 2 and 3. Potentially now, though, they could get it done in 2.
Yeah, a huge opportunity on the cards, and one that they've really worked for. You have to say that Vertigo felt like a slog. It felt like Sprout had to pick themselves up off the floor, and they managed to do it. But of course, to get into that second map, to get into Ancient, to see if LFO have maybe got some fight left in their lungs, or whether it is going to be Sprout with the demolition job, we have got to get through the ads. We've got to give the players a little bit of downtime between the maps. So we are going to throw it to a very quick break, guys. And when we are back, we will have Ancient for you. So stick with us.
You love it, you wear it. What's your style? Get your merch at shop.eslgaming.com.
Break up, don't speak for a couple of weeks. I'll be in his place till he calls and says he's sorry. This situation's on repeat, just like a scratch on a CD. It just gets deeper when you hit rewind. How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending tears and it's blurring your vision. You know he don't love you, that you're holding on to. Scream through the phone even though he won't listen. So I'm still at your place, turn
still not enough. Even your parents know I'm good for you, but I'm still not enough. You wanna be done with him, you're stuck with him, 'cause you don't have the guts. And after all I've done, I'm still not enough.
Still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left here reusing that you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you rescue?
Sprout finding themselves with a glimmer of hope I don't think they were expecting as they head on to map 2. Ancient their map pick and an opportunity to see maybe they can close the door on it. Lucky though. Looking to change the fortunes of LFO very early on in these pistols with some swift kills out of those dualies, leaving just Alpha remaining. Standing of the hour for Sprout is going to look to get that bomb down, and honestly the smart decision here. Gets himself just a little bit of breathing room. Will be spotted out though as he makes his way back into the cave, and with that bomb not planted for him at all, this becomes increasingly difficult, and it will be LFO who get their first round on the board. 3 kills and a bomb plant down though, not a bad result for the pistol from Sprout. Should be able to get some guns into the second.
Yeah, that's just a very tough 1-on-2 to play no matter what afterplant position you have, but he probably had the worst of them all considering the bomb plant. A solid start for Looking4Org, a pistol round, which was something that eluded them on the previous map as well. Could be perhaps the change that they need. But again, a pause. Doesn't bode well. Not at all. I don't like it. It's way too early.
It's just been our luck, isn't it? It's just been a little bit of a nasty one for the Techs. Apparently, it's a nice and short one, though. So fingers crossed, we'll get through it nice and swiftly. As you said, though, I don't like to say that you're better off losing the pistol on T side. But if I was going to make an outrageously out there statement, I think it would be that. Because if you get like 3 kills and you get the bomb down, say, you look at the buy that's going to come out from LFO here. They're probably going to go 3 or 4 rifles. They're going to be limited on util on the players who are able to get rifles out. And then maybe a couple of SMGs who will buy the utility, right? A couple of MP9s who will go heavy on the util. You look at what Sprout are able to get out. They've got an AK on Alpha, which is the best weapon in the server coming into round 2. Launex will have himself a Galil. Zyphon can get the same. They've actually sacrificed more than I would have expected them to, with both Stare and Zello dropping down onto the Deagles to pick up a full belt of utility. But realistically, those could have been Mac 10s with a couple of nades. They could have been an extra Galil. You could be looking at a 4 rifle buy here out of Sprout as they head into this second round. And that is ridiculous. It just thinking about that. I mean, you look at the buy that LFO have gone for here. They've got to go rifle heavy because they're scared of the force buy from Sprout, right? And as a result, they've got 1 smoke, 1 flash, a molly, and 2 smokes and a molly. There we go. We'll do the math later. But it's not that much of a better buy. And you could argue the T side are in a better spot because they can try and leverage these Galils and AKs for an opening pick.
Yeah, alongside a bit more utility overall, kind of mix and matched across the board here. So it definitely is a decent position for Sprout, as you said, despite losing the pistol round. And they're going to creep that AK in the hands of Alpha straight up in towards this D bomb site. Haji in the back, no utility, needs to just hit the shots, and he's only good for the 1. Damage, or quite a bit of damage on top of that, rather. Leave them in an okay position if they can keep the numbers, but Joko goes down in towards Cave. That would have been a big position to keep control of for the retake, and without it, I don't even think they want to try it. They're sticking around for now behind the smoke, but it doesn't really look like Mac is going to be making it anytime soon. He's very slowly moving towards the spawn.
I think he's in one of those situations where if they get a pick, he'll go for it. If they don't, he'll save. And with that kill going against him, Launex gets the freebie. At this point, Exercise and Mac, the smart thing to do is to back away from this one and try and get that save, keep a couple of rifles into the next. And you see almost exactly what we were talking about in the pause manifesting itself, right? There's a firepower advantage there. The T's take advantage of it. They walk the AK up. They trade efficiently into the site. And at that point, they've got more utility than LFO have got to hold onto the site itself. So they drop a couple of smokes, find a couple of picks, and the round has spiraled out of control. LFO not able to do anything about it. And their economy is now in tatters, is the real kicker for the CT side, right? Even with the 2 saved rifles, they're looking at a double eco before they can get into this one. So they're forced to force their hand and go for the buy, which is so much worse than the T's can manage into the second round. Even with 2 saved rifles, they're 3 pistols, limited util across the board. It's just so ugly for CTs in this meta.
Yeah, I mean, not for, as you said, the 2 saved weapons. It wouldn't even be a comparable buy to what Sprout were able to pull out in the previous round. They've got a lot of utility on this T side as well to back up the rifles that they've carried forward now. And unless some mini miracles come true here for Looking4Org, this should be Sprout taking the 2-1 lead early on, likely a 3-1 off the back of the 10 as well. Exercise, it output a small bit of damage, I think, with the wall bangs still, but nothing really substantial. They're hoping someone will get a little bit overzealous and maybe go out through the smoke, and we will see aggression over towards A instead. Zello's holding for it, but he's got the FAMAS. Is it the weapon you want in this exchange? Doesn't quite look like it. They exchange roughly 30 damage each. Nothing too crazy.
Horrid gun for it. I don't know if Dean's lagged out just for me or for absolutely everyone, but...
Hello?
Oh, you're back.
Weird. I could still hear you, so I'm not too sure. Hopefully
Well,
VMix was okay, because it looked good on mine.
Keep our fingers crossed. Flashbang in. Oh, so nearly works for Lau and X, but he's a split second too soon. And, well, LFO have found a little bit of that miracle you were asking for. Alpha immediately in with the responses through the wall. He takes out Exercise. But Zyphon's Molly has gone just a little bit too deep to deal with Lucky. Finally, he checks the corner. And that will actually start to drag the rotations away completely from this B site with 25 seconds left on the clock. The Deagle now looking to work its way into red. Does catch a tag onto Zyphon. Watches him transition into B as well. So that's information gathered as the hit looks to make its way out. Long, still wide open, but they're going to swing it. They're going to look for the trade and find it. Lauanex through the smoke converts. And even more damage down through the smoke. A kill onto the last man. And tags Maka down to 32. That angle favouring the T side massively into that one. As Maka, well, once again, he's going to try and get away with this rifle down to 11 HP. He'll just about get away with it.
Yeah, all about saving this M4 now, and even then, that looks like it's going to be a challenge. They are coming for him. Although LauNX, I don't think is going to want to get too aggressive either, so they might end up just having a bit of a standoff here, and Maka may manage to save the M4 forward. That looks like it's going to be the case, but around it, it's going to be just USPs, I'd imagine. I mean, Mac is the only one who could really afford to buy pistols, but I don't think it's worthwhile because he wants to aim towards getting that up out soon as well. So it's likely just the M4 here, maybe a risky stack, a push somewhere to try and allow that M4 to get something done with the pistols in the front, perhaps. Sprout have a chance to take a third round here and potentially do so cleanly with already a pretty decent economy beginning to build.
Worth noting as well, LFO, a heavy CT leaning team on Ancient. So these kind of early rounds that you can stick together up against the lesser buys could prove costly in the long term. It is going to be the push down mid, set the angle up for Maka on the rifle. The pistol's there to try and recover the situation, but Sprout well set to deal with it. All 3 kills going their way in middle. Now just about picking off the remaining pieces at the extremities. LauNX takes a protracted fight, but will be able to find his man. And last up Exercise, I mean, just a kill, a rifle would be a fantastic net result here, but with Alpha holding him, I don't think he's going to get much at all.
This kind of worst case scenario, they needed 1 or 2 kills out of this round. Instead, Sprout have got a fantastic start to this game for themselves. Is Zyphon lagging?
Zyphon lagging, are we lagging? We'll never know. There's the P250, taking a little bit of a peek into it, and there's the kill coming through. 3 on the board. Sprout looking very solid in the initial rounds, but we said the same on Vertigo. Then the comeback came through, and the question is, what can LFO do to change the picture here? We'll be able to buy into this one. There's the possibility of an AWP for Maka, and he's thinking it through. He's going to go for it, knowing that he's up against majority AK-47, sacrificing the head armor. In fact, I say that he's sacrificing the head armor. The entirety of LFO are sacrificing the head armor to make sure they can get that little bit of extra util and try and really put up a fight here into round 5. Heavy util down the ramp initially to protect against any kind of rushes, and that allows Haji to get into place in towards Jaguar. Just try and take some of that opening control. We've seen that smoke go down a couple of times now, looking for the peek in towards Scaffold. Drags out the counter Molotov from Sprout. We get our first fight of the round towards a main. Exercise is ready for it, but Zyphon just a little quicker on the draw. And that's a big pick to get, because almost immediately you have to start gambling into this B site. If you want to play this B site, you've got to heavy stack it now, because you've got no idea what's going on over on A.
Yeah, and they do have the 3 players in position, in fairness. Zyphon, I think, try and potentially pull something away, or at least have them looking to see if it is going to be this B hit or not. And indeed, Joko wanted information. He's punished for it. There's a crossfire that's solid between the back site and cave, but it's not working out. As you said, the FAMAS had a very shaky spray. And it's only a single kill from Haji on that defense, leaving Maka alone again with no option other than to just save. He has been saving every round, but he hasn't had any other choice, really.
French rifle betrays the Frenchman. The FAMAS, a notoriously finicky weapon. Gotta say, if he gets that spray down onto Stair, you've got to imagine that's a hold that can stick around. Instead, looking at Maka here, trying to save that AWP for another day. We'll find a second pick, switches to the AK to try and buy a little more breathing room, but it's not going to work out. Or to be salvaged across. Sprout not minding throwing a few extra bodies. I mean, you look at their economy, Zyphon's on 13k. There's plenty of money flowing around that T side now with a very strong start. So throwing a couple of extra bodies to make sure that AWP doesn't survive to fight another day, it's a net positive. It's worth going for if you're on that T side. And as we see the pause come in, there's some big decisions to be made again over on the LFO side of things. I mean, their economy is in the bin. They will be calling the timeout to try and work out what they want to do with it. Loss bonus should be well established by this point, so a half buy feels viable, but you've got to come up with something a little outside the box for the Pistols, because thus far Sprout have dealt brilliantly with everything LFO have thrown at them.
Yeah, and it really is beginning to become a little bit worrying. There's still some utility at least being bought up here. There's no Kevlar really, which is surprising. They have heavily prioritized going towards the nades rather than getting any Kevlar for themselves.
It screams aggro to me.
Yeah.
I'd imagine when you go for this kind of buy, what you're hoping is that Molotov and those HEs will do enough damage to someone and put their aim off enough that you can maybe get something going with the unarmored pistols. But instead, it's a fairly standard lean, at least initially, for LFO. I mean, yes, they've got no placement towards main, but there's some aggression down mid. A two-man mid play is not uncommon in this meta, but unfortunately, the A play has been called from Sprout right as the CT side look to abandon it entirely, and they are just farming away these pistols now. The second player comes in to support. The kills all go up Sprout's way. The feed lighting up for the T side. I mean, Zyphon, he is going to get knifed here. Maka is going to get one kill, and that's a really nice booster, actually, for Maka. Traditionally, the AWPer, he should be able to get his big green gun into the next one off the back of that, but I mean, it's a consolation at best, right? It's a little bit of a cheer going up for the boys on LFO as they manage to get a kill out of this round, because other than that, it is a ritualistic slaughter from Sprout on entry to A.
Yeah, just walk through them. We weren't expecting a lot more, in fairness. If they had have taken a gamble, as you said, maybe tried to put those nades somewhere together and even aimed to just take out one or two players who might have been grouped together and steal some weapons to do some further damage with, perhaps that would have went a little bit better, but like you said, they played things relatively standard. Tried the mid aggression and the alley aggression, as you'd probably see on a gun round, and just didn't work out. Either way, they're back on the guns and they need to find some life right now, otherwise it's gonna just completely spiral out of control. Sprout already on 5 here on this T side. If they take this, they'll be heading towards 7. They'll be heading towards winning out half as well. Yeah, that's crazy. I was gonna say Joko did have a decent position to shut down that initial player, and the op just about comes off the angle, allowing for him to get a follow-up. And suddenly, it looks like Looking4Org do have a round that should be going their way, but Steer and Alpha want to have something to say about this, and Alpha's been having a fantastic game once again. Although he gets spammed through the smoke, that's not going to make it easy for him.
Yeah, no health to play with. Stair, yes, he's managed to fall off the angle, but a 1v4 to contend with. Bomb not planted well. It is wall bangable, but that's about all he's got going for him now, and he needs to thin the numbers soon. He knows it. First shot doesn't quite connect. The second spray, neither. A little bit of a rogue call there from Sprout. I think hoping that the AWP had Overwatch, they try and charge up the ramp, but just one too many angles for them to contend with. The utility not quite there. LFO get their second, and they get it in some fashion as well. 4 players kept up. A nice opportunity for them to start building back into this first half. If they can deal with this one, build up a little more bank of their own. I mean, it's going to be a while until they really start looking to break down Sprout and getting them onto the half buys and ecos, but just building up that CT economy really has to be the priority now.
Yeah, I mean, Joko stepped up there in that previous round, but we need everyone to start putting in another level of performance really from what we've been seeing. Zyphon charges through the molly and takes a ton of damage and just gives that kill away to Exercise. Isn't going to be having too much trouble when players are just charging through into his crosshair. So an initial kill, a ton of damage as well. That's actually gone the way of Looking4Org. They're certainly looking slightly up, and a wall bang from Haji. All right. There was a player up close who wasn't even tempted to try and follow it up. If he did, there was a second player also giving him that cover. He made the correct decision.
Salt in the wounds.
It's a difficult 3-on-5 now with all their players tagged up a bit as well.
Really needs Zello to get something done. That drop may well have been heard, though. Exercise playing an off angle. Will be spotted out on the jump peak. Alpha able to take advantage for one, but again, they're lacking util here. And Stare, I don't think he's going to expect the man cubby. Surely Lucky gets a gift here, and indeed he does. Stare just backing into it, gives away a freebie with 45 seconds left, 2-on-4. Alpha down on 14 HP. I'm not sure what you can really do here as the T side to get it going. Bomb on the back of Alpha. Are they just going to concede the save? Indeed they are. LFO will have their third round, and this is getting very reminiscent now of Vertigo. Initial spree of rounds from Sprout. LFO started to find a way to counter, started to play into that mid-aggression. It's working out well for them. Question is, have Sprout got something else in the pocket? Kind of as they did on Vertigo, right? That second spree where they find a way to break open and find a way to get that consistency back into their T side.
I mean, they'll have at least 2, maybe 3 more buys in the reserve, so they have a lot of opportunities to try new things. That is one positive. We are seeing some life injected back into Looking4Org now, which I think is something Sprout would have liked to have avoided if possible. It did seem like they were on track for a fantastic performance. Looking4Org just slowly clawing back at a couple of rounds now. It certainly hasn't been easy though. Joko's loving the Og. He had that one good round with it, a couple back. Let's see if he gets an opportunity to do any more damage as he tries to find the spam on mid. Siphon bypasses it this time, doesn't charge through a molly while blind into an enemy.
I like this play. Proactive into that mid control. It's been where they've lost the fights a couple of times now, so instead, really leaning on it. Taking the fight to the opposition. The spam both ways is significant. Haji just about gets the better of it, but it is extremely marginal. And then everyone just slows down a little bit. LFO have got to be conscious that mid-control could well have been conceded. They're forced to respect that, and they do so by leaning 3 over towards the B site, which is looking like the call to end all calls here. Heavy stack in towards the cave will be picked off freely by Maka on the swing. And again, Sprout here, just looking a little bit blunt, a little bit lost. They've got a man in towards A main in Xiphon, but he's not really had any chance to have impact yet. And with a 3-man lean into this B site, an early pick found. What do you want to do here if you're Sprout? You've got a little bit of utility, but no smokes to lock these angles down. You're going to have to take these fights, and the crossfires are well set for the CT side.
Sure how they're going to crack through this defense. A decent flash does take the op off the angle though, and Haji's low, so it's an easy finish for LooNX. The smoke down, just about to dissipate. I was going to say it could have been a problem, but the molly pushes Maka back again. But he's still making it costly, as you said. Flicks onto the head of LooNX. Can't do anything about stopping the bomb plant itself either, but he is keeping them on their toes. They can't get a comfortable bomb plant after plant here, as you can see. Siphon instead, who needs to put them down from behind, and they've each taken a frag. Exercise has to force the issue now, knowing there's a player in behind them. Wants to take the 1v1 while he had the chance, but it isn't going to happen. A mad spin around for the dink onto Xiphon is a very solid shot, but unfortunately with the M4A1S it wasn't enough. It's a 6-3 scoreline. Sprout managed to just about edge out another round, and while they haven't completely broken the economy of Looking4Org, it has put them on the edge. Exercise especially can't quite get the bye with everyone else.
That's a huge round for them to win as well. Bringing that one back from the disadvantage. Cracking open that B bomb site with extremely limited utility as well. LFO actually called the timeout here, as you expected, just to look at that economy and try and work out how they want to stitch it together. A critical swing round going the way of Sprout, courtesy of a little bit of magic from Zello and Xiphon. That long flank protracted out of A main, just continuing to be patient with it until the last possible moment buys them the critical kill. Zello doing very well to deal with the close cave player as well, despite the pressure of the mollies and knowing the short presence was there. Does very well to clean up. And as this buy comes through, it's a big opportunity now for Sprout. Get this one out of the way. The eco follows. That CT side really starts to fall apart for LFO. Have managed over on that CT side to scrape the buy together. A couple of drops coming out from Haji to make sure that Exercise can get the rifle. Question is, what's the call? Because again, those aren't reliable rounds for Sprout. That's a little bit of magic. Fairy dust they've sprinkled onto that one to get it over the line. They can't rely on that over and again. So they're going to go towards A main. And for now, Maka cuts an isolated figure here. Zello's going to try for the boost up to spot him out, but Maka's a little quicker. Molotov goes down to buy him some space. Alpha wants to go through it and will beat his man to the draw, but there's more where that came from. And Lucky keeps Looking4Org in the ascendancy.
Yeah, there was no chance of a follow-up either with a molly that had been put down, so fortunately the advantage stands for now for Looking4Org. Fortunately for Sprout, that is. Despite the risks being taken by Alpha, but they are still going to try and group back and see if they can take it towards this A-bomb site. Exercise is playing pretty passive back in the temple. There's one player towards Donut, so there is a couple players who'll be in position to make it a costly play as they try and get that bomb planted. I'm not too sure how much they want to do about stopping the initial push in towards the site.
There's a clock on this play. You can see the aggression on the minimap. Jocko and Haji working their way over towards the B lane, so it's just a question of timings now. Should get the better of the initial. Should be able to take this site. Utility comes in. Exercise not really in a position to contest from the temple. Donut smoked off, although the damage through the smoke is traded well. 2 on 3 now. It's going to be Lauenex and Zyphon this time. Secondary AWPer, primary rifler, and Zyphon proving exactly why, but he's on his own. He's lost the support he had last time out. And he's into the 1v2, knows there's likely a player, hears him in towards the Donut, wants to take that fight first up, but Haji's got his man instead. And the critical round goes the way of the CT side. A huge lifeline, and one that goes a long way to breaking the economy of the T side as well. Really buys LFO a chance in this first half.
Keeps them in it. The reinvestment, though, is going to cost them pretty much everything, and it's seen the economy for Sprout still pretty solid. Lauenex and Zello still have a little bit left over as well, so if they get a bomb down, then you'll probably see them press the issue once again, but there would be a few players a bit too short on money, so it's a chance we're looking for. Take this round, probably have maybe a half investment then between you and tying things up at 6-6. So Looking4Org's buy right now does not have a lot of utility to back it up. They've used up most of it rather in these early stages. Seeing a heavy lean again towards this A-bomb site where they've had good success with the entries.
Can't blame them for looking for it initially. This time, though, they are going to bail out with the smoke coming through. Knowing perhaps that they've got the utility advantage, knowing that that economy, again, is yet to be stabilized for the CTs. They start to work their way into mid, utilize those smokes. Cut out a couple more angles, and where do they want to split? This is the question. A 1-2-2 set up from the CT side as Sprout are going to work their way out towards B, leaving just Zyphon in mid. He's dinked up early, though. Will have to retreat from his first angle of choice, down on 15 HP. Looks to join the team over towards B, but look at the CTs, already 4 players ready and waiting for this exact play. They will get the bomb down. The stack red from the spam as Lauenex through the smoke finds Haji, and that's a huge pick to find as well. With Zyphon on low HP, they needed something going their way. Limited utility for the CT side as they look to make this retake happen. There is a flank, but it's a long way away from Exercise, and Zyphon is the early warning symbol as well. On low HP, he should spot this one out before it becomes too dangerous. Does get one before he goes down. Stare immediately in with the trade, and now for Exercise and Maka, both their positions known, and there's just nothing more they can do. The bomb is too far gone. The opportunity is lost, and Sprout will have a 7th.
Time just didn't afford them the opportunity to go for it, unfortunately. Maka will get an exit and hang on to his op in the meantime as well, but the economy's not there for the buy to come in, so even with these 2 saved weapons, they're looking at a few pistols maybe being upgraded at most. Even then, I don't think they can. Haji definitely can't. They only get 2400 loss bonus. Joko probably wouldn't want to if he wants to ensure he gets everything in this next round, so yeah, they're going to be looking at this eco here. 8 rounds likely going to be found for Sprout unless Exercise and Maka have something to say about it with those 2 saved weapons. And that's probably why we're having this pause here and now.
Sprout calling it, in fact.
Oh, really?
Just looking to settle the nerves. I think maybe plotting out, knowing that there's going to be a couple of bits saved, maybe trying to do the math on what kind of a bye they're going to be coming up against in the next. Planning their run into the end of the first half, because they are in the driving seat at the moment. They control the pace, they control the momentum. And in all, they control the series, if we're being honest, at the moment. Exercise and Mac are the ones who are going to have to change that coming into this round. Handful of upgraded pistols in support, but nothing of significance. What's the call? Where do you look to utilise an AK and an AWP? It's going to be Exercise looking to press the issue into main. Jocko there to back him up. The molly, at least initially, will hold them put as there's a boost out. Is that a triple boost in towards B long to try and give them an angle?
Looks like it.
They're going to go for it. It's going to give them an angle deep down the ramp. In fact, it might just give them an angle onto the legs of Zello. I'm not sure if he can see the foot. He's not quite aware of it if he can. I like the idea, but it doesn't quite land. And now this becomes dangerous in its own way, because that stack, those two stacks, have completely eliminated mid-control. And Alpha, well, he's managed to thread the needle beautifully here. Lucky as a freebie. He wants more than that, though. Taps away one. Maka manages to dodge the spray initially, but Stare is there to back his man up. And although it's a little awkward, it is just the one kill going against them. The bomb will go down on B in the meanwhile. And considering the firepower that was brought into this round by LFO, those two save rifles, I think getting out in this kind of a situation, admittedly now with a second kill going against them, is still a net positive for Sprout as they get 8 on the board.
Yeah, I like the gamble. It's just unfortunate. You either need the best eyesight ever if you want to see the foot of a player at that range, or you need to scope in with the op. Didn't want to give it away though, I suppose.
It felt like he could see it on the minimap, but he couldn't see it in person, because he kept going back to it. There was 2 or 3 times, right, where he went over that direction. I wonder if someone saw it on the minimap, but just didn't get enough of info and couldn't quite see the angle well enough to get the kill. It's a little unfortunate, but the round's gone now. You need to let that one rest and try and put your full focus into this. But again, yeah, Xiphon so far through mid, and again, the CT side have abandoned it. They're going to go aggressive down the B ramp. That's the counterplay that they're looking to call here, but it's been spotted by the AWPer. Doesn't matter. Joko gets a freebie. And there's plenty more where that came from, looking to take these fights. The trades are good. 2 for 1 for Joko, and his teammates have managed to escape. The problem is, again, Xiphon, the snake in the grass, has worked his way all the way through spawn, and he's going to go out long here. There's no way Hadji expects this. It's a gift. And now the AWPer in towards Cave has got to watch 2 angles at once. Got to be so conscious of everything that could be going against him. He's got to wait as well, because there is a backstab coming up the ramp. Lucky and Exercise in position. It's a game of timings, a game of inches here. Zello is aware of the possibility. He's watching for it, and he picks his first. Stays trained on the angle, but then he switches right as Maka gets his shot, and it leaves Stare no man's land in the cubby. The Molotov surely to flush him out. The tick will be heard, but he's got 1 and not enough. He burns alive. LFO stitch it together. The miracle round comes to pass. A couple of very fortunate timings save them from being 5 rounds down. Instead, it's a 5th on the board for them, and an opportunity to accelerate towards the close of this first half.
Timing was horrible though. Zello was posted up. He waited the extra second or so and just begun to move his crosshair as the swing came in. If he gets that second, Maka is pretty much trapped in towards the cave, and he would have had a very tough time getting out. A5, Looking4Org, they add another round to the board, and they're slowly building up their tally here. As you said, they do tend to lean towards the CT side a little bit here on this map, so I think 7 is where they would want to end it here to feel relatively happy. Bit of noise made around mid by Sprout, but they're looking to move this straight over towards A. And I think Looking4Org might have an idea about that. They've rotated Lucky back over, they have Exercise in position as well. None to send over players from B as well.
Lack of mid presence really was a giveaway. Initial trades though are solid. B side should be able to get that bomb down. Maka's boost over the top, not quite going to spot them as they get in. Should spot the afterplant though, and indeed it does. Alpha down, that's one of the AKs lost as well. You can see the Deagle of Zello desperate to find a recovery. Does manage to nab it, and it gives Stair half a timing. Aggressive into the temple. There's timings all over the shop, though. Zello not spotting out Hadji just yet. As that FAMAS looks to clear its corners. Timing. Oh, Zello spotted just the corner of his gun barrel poking through as Hadji now looks to accelerate. AK in hand will go down, and the AKs continue to rain havoc. Zyphon from behind the boxes. Stair, the supporting star. And Sprout hold on to that A-site retake to grab their 9th.
That really is a worst case scenario for Looking4Org. They don't even have the economy to scrape together a semi-decent buy here. It's going to be a couple MP9s and some pistols. A third MP9 added to the collection. And a Zeus for Lucky. We'll see exactly what he goes for with that. Maybe to try and steal away an AK. Nice close range position if he gets the chance. One main with an MP9, probably not the brightest of ideas. There is an AK hold, but there is an SMG as well, though. He wants to take the challenges as he just charges through the smoke with a MAC-10, takes the kill. Decides he wants an MP9 instead. They also catch Exercise pushing out through that A main smoke. That's going to give them a push forward. Now they've got a player trapped in Donut, which is not a very lucky position to be caught in. As the bomb goes down. Half's done.
Such a nasty play from Stay. Just waits till he hears the reload. Chucks it in, and it will be double digits. 10-5 for Sprout. They look to get it done cleanly after the break.
You love it, you wear it. What's your style? Get your merch at shop.eslgaming.com.
don't speak for a couple of weeks. I'll be in his place till he calls and says he's sorry. This situation's on repeat, just like a scratch on a CD. It just gets deeper when you hit rewind. How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending tears and it's blurring your vision. You know he don't love you, that you're holding on to. Scream through the phone even though he won't listen. So I'm still at your place, trying to make it okay. He's miles away, I'm left hearing you say that you just need someone caring for you. When will you see me more than you rescue? I'm feeling kinda used, yeah, like a drug that you take when you're sick of crying all your tears away. Is that all I am? All I want is for you to be happy. You know this ain't healthy. Do I make you happy? How many nights will you make this decision? Nights ending tears and it's blurring your vision. You
Sprout in a commanding position here to shut this one down early, headed to the CT side of Ancient. A clean pistol would put them well on their way to finding a smooth 2-0 over Looking4Org. A team who we really had odds on to get this job done. Question is, can they keep that consistency headed into this CT side? It looks like an A play called almost immediately, and the CTs have got a decent read on this. They're scrambling to get the rotations into the site in time. Zello even blocking the smoke to make it a little more awkward still. Missed flash to follow up. It's getting very ugly here as the hit looks to come in. A couple of quick picks from Stare, a third from the man in Temple as he keeps his team in the ascendancy for now. Buys a fourth before Alpha chimes in, and that is exactly the pistol Sprout ordered.
All right. Angry about the fact that they let one slip earlier on. They decided, you know what, we're going to make it 3 out of 4 at the very least. And just been having some fantastic individual performances across the board from Sprout. Everyone's getting their opportunity to step up. Alpha played a fantastic first map. He's having a really good one here as well. Zyphon stepped up now. Lau and X has had fantastic moments. Steer's been playing really well also. Zello's been kind of chill, but he's still had impactful moments when he's had the op in his hands especially. And honestly, just hasn't necessarily been needed all that much because everyone else has held their ground.
It's felt like he's just been the consistent rock anchor upper, hasn't he? He's just been there every round, getting the kills when he needs to, but letting his teammates shine. It's going to be the A play again here on the force buy with the pistols, and this time a little bit less read into by Sprout as well. Zello cutting an isolated figure in towards Temple. Does have the donut support coming through, but it's just the MP9s here. Rotation should be available sooner rather than later, and that's a lovely timed Molotov as well. Just a tickle on the feet as they head on through. Smoke forced to be thrown to extinguish, and the kills just starting to come up in favour of this CT side now as the MP9s chug through the pistols. It's Maka left alone in a 1v2 up against the full rifle power of this CT side. He's going to try and play the tech up close and personal, but Lau and X is too quick on the reactions, and 12 are on the board. The force buy fails. It'll be 13 before LFO can buy again.
Yeah, I had a little bit of faith in him there as well. There's a chance, you know, when a player starts creeping through the smoke, you're close with a Tech 9, suddenly you get that first kill, and it's a one-on-one that can be played out. Unfortunately, didn't manage to get the drop on the first player. It's 12-5 instead for Sprout. It's going to be a full eco coming in with maybe a couple pistols. There's an AK for Joko. Maka dropped it over so that they can have one hero rifle to at least try and make a dent in the economy and just remind Sprout that they're still here, they're still alive. They can still cause them some trouble. Because they might have forgotten about that with how easy things have been going for the last while.
To see what Joko can pull out of his back pocket with this one. For now, I think hoping for some aggression up mid, but nothing being given to him. Just sitting on the angle. Deagle posted up on Hadji as well, really just playing into the hope that the CT's over-aggress somewhere. They get a little keen on their peak, like you said, get a little confident, right? that this is going to be the smooth sailing round and then take the sharp end of the stick in response. And there it is, exactly what the doctor ordered. Joko takes full advantage to open up. And that forces this CT side into a 2-2 split. And this is where it can potentially get ugly, because there's that flank through mid. There's the rifle recovered. Stare, though, reads it like a book. And right when it starts to get dangerous, chips away at Maka. Keeps his team in the 4-on-4. The smoke will buy them a little more time before the execute comes in as well. And at this point, with the second smoke going down towards the ramp, that is beautifully timed by the CT side to just lock these Ts out all the longer.
The only problem is the rotations are so far away that once this hit does start to come in, if they don't manage to put in a considerable hold, then I don't think there'd be much that Zyphon or Zello could do about it on the way over. So we're going to need a big defense between Lau and X and Steer. Push starts to come through the cave. Unfortunately, Steer is completely isolated, is only able to get the one, but as you said, time is low. Unfortunately, they didn't delay enough. Another couple seconds needed to be wasted. And Haji hits a nasty deagle shot that suddenly gives them the numbers advantage.
This is very winnable now. 2 rifles recovered. Exercise still inside of the site with 1. The smoke will start to isolate these fights, but a boost over the top gets another big kill going their way. Zello spam down through the smoke, and LFO have their miracle. 1 deagle, 1 AK, 1 round on the board. 6 the gap now, but it's a huge reset for the economy of Sprout.
That was worst case scenario. Their economy has been demolished. They got 1,400. And they had pretty much nothing in the reserve, so it's some pistols, a scout, Kevlar, minimum utility. And Looking4Org's opportunity to get back into this game when really they shouldn't have had any. Not quite this soon. It should have been 13-5 before they had a chance to really start building anything. Instead, 12-6, and it seems like a much more doable margin of error.
Nice tag from the scout early on. Does grab a second as well. He's doing a lot of damage. It's the kind of damage that seems innocuous, but as the round goes on, as the time gets low, it's the damage that a deagle can convert in 1 shot, a FAMAS in a couple, a 5-7 in a couple. I mean, it applies to the rifle too, but it's the kind of damage that really does start to stack up. For now, though, it is just Stare over towards this B site, dropping the smokes, trying to buy as much time as he can. Again, a very passive setup from the CT side, heavily leaning into an A site stacked with 2. And that's going to allow for a lot of control to be taken here. Zello on the angle, the lone defender of mid as the deagle. It's damaged, but again, not quite enough. All of those tags. Nobody quite able to convert just yet. And with the smokes, the B site will be taken. Zello now caught in the retreat. Another tag. Everyone bar Lucky is low. But the pistols just aren't quite finding the space or the timing to capitalize. Exercise catches Lau and X knifed out. And this is going to turn into a round of whats and ifs and buts and maybes, because the rifles, despite the tags, despite the low HPs, are going to find 7.
Yeah, I mean, they should have at least had a few kills coming from this one. I wouldn't imagine they're going to hunt too much. Lucky has full health, so he's going in here. But, I mean, if he goes down, then some of the other low health players get taken out. Obviously, it's not about winning the round. It's about doing some damage at this point. Eventually, Zyphon could make it worthwhile in that regard. But no, shut down by Haji in the back on 3 health. That's all he needed. 12-7, 5 between them. I mean, that's 2, maybe 3 gun rounds on the CT side. This is very doable for Looking4Org. Sprout on a full eco as well.
This is hugely dangerous. LFO will really be feeling that this one is right in their ballpark again. This should have been a shutout. Should have been 13-5. Get 1 rifle over the board. Go home. Instead, as you said, full eco. A main rush. Try for something cheeky, but it's going to be an 8th round. The gap at just 4. LFO full of confidence. And the CT side just not quite having the answers at the moment. A main rush is spotted out, the utility dropped, and now the AKs will come to farm their reward. It's a kill. And a couple of dinks onto Haji, but not quite enough to find any conversion. 8 for LFO. And now we ask the big questions, because this is the round that really decides if there is going to be a response, if Sprout are going to be able to get their way over the line, or if LFO are going to continue this comeback, and we are going to need that 3rd map to separate these 2 lineups after all.
back on the buy here. I mean, no kits, no op, limited utility. It seems very bare bones. In fairness, those Pro have been solid at swapping things up, showing some initiative, so they will still have an idea in mind for this round. I don't think they've been given much of a choice. Early aggression, early utility, everything from Looking4Org. Joko's threatening into the bomb site already over on B. And has got Lau on X as he rotates in. There's 2 more players on the way, sure, but they can't do anything about it right now. The site is being overrun as Alpha does his best to fight back in. And actually, a few trades give them a decent opportunity, but no, it's constant chaos. And it favors the way of Looking4Org.
Just carnage. You could see the idea from Sprout. They wanted the mid control, but they just call it at the wrong moment. It just wanders into B. Joko gets a freebie, and from there, they just trade it down. That's all they really need to do there. It looks like carnage, but it's very well orchestrated. For LFO, they trade every kill as it comes. Don't allow anyone to get breathing room on the Sprout side of things. Don't allow them to really wrestle control of that site back whatsoever. Double digits on the cards now for LFO. Another half buy, and to be honest, Sprout are after a miracle of their own now. In need of a round to galvanize the troops, to make them believe. And, well, they've got an early pick here. Stare. An AK recovered, salvaged out of the Jaguar. But look at the positioning. Again, already so proactive on LFO. Looking to isolate the A-site wrap here, potentially, and there's a lot of bodies waiting on it. Alpha, though, on the recovered AK, has found a second, and now they're looking to charge down that AWP. They know exactly where their man is. Maka, though, hits at least one, keeps his team in it, but the trades are solid. Lucky last up, and with the bomb down bottom of mid, he's got a long way to go to stitch this 1v3 together. The one advantage he has is nobody knows where he is. He is the silent assassin. If he can just isolate these fights, but Zyphon is watching for this exact headshot peak, and there it is. We said Sprout needed their miracle round, and boy did they provide. The pistols get them 13. They do just what LFO did to them back again. The only problem is it doesn't break that T-side economy like it did the CTs.
No, not to the same extent. There's one player who can't quite afford his rifle. That's Maka, but he should be dropped something at the very least. I know he's got an up. Okay, they'd already dropped it over, so yeah, they had the money elsewhere. It was Exercise who was able to give it his way. Yeah, I mean, I love what we're seeing from Alpha, though. I don't know if he's going to be a permanent addition to the roster or anything, but he looks like a decent enough fit. Brings that firepower that they desperately needed. Bit of an unknown factor as well. This round, though, very important for both of these sides right now, so full focus needs to go on it. Zello knows someone's already crossed to the left side. Not sure if he'd expect the second who's gone towards the sniper's nest, so maybe Hadji can catch someone off guard, but they've already lost Joko.
It's a game of timings now. Again, these rounds have turned into a little bit of cat and mouse so many times. Hadji in a great position to find impact, just watching for this very rotation. It's a clean headshot. Zyphon goes. Molotov isolates a second, and he gets it as well. This was a man advantage situation for the CT side. Alpha, yes, he's got a backstab, but there's a lone player out towards B. This backstab needs to be quicker. Hadji half watching for it, will go down, and here's the B commit. Charging into the site, knowing they've got a 3-on-3, and everyone is miles away for now. The flash is ugly for both sides of the equation. Nobody can quite capitalize. Then Maka fires off. Lucky comes in with another, and it's all on to Zello. He's been consistent to the last, but now he's got to do a little more. He's got to provide a critical clutch round. He's got to. No info on Exercise. Last man up. He knows he was planter, but he could damn well be anywhere now, and he's playing around the smoke. He's playing the timings, and the missed shot will be punished. Double digits for LFO. Zello inches away from the clutch of the series, but the rounds go down further. Just 3 in it now, as once again that economy starts to bend and buckle for the CT side.
Yeah, and he was just a tiny bit off on that final shot. Slightly, I think, covered by the smoke. It made it hard to judge where he needed to put the bullet, and fell slightly short. 13-10. As you said, double digits for Looking4Org. The economy just barely affords Sprout a buy here, so if they lose this, suddenly Looking4Org are probably up on 12. And another gun round could propel them into the lead and towards that finish line, potentially, to take it towards a third map. So Sprout do definitely need to worry, and that's why we're seeing this pause, I'd imagine. Now an X going to be left on a weaker weapon as well. It was a good start from Sprout as well. They just let it slip away.
Yep. And then they've just struggled to find any consistency behind it, right? It's been clutches, it's been big plays. They've just taken their foot off the gas a little bit, much like LFO on map 1, if we're being honest. Full advantage taken. Charge up mid called here by Hadji. So much map control taken in the opening 10 seconds of the round. Again, it just feels like Sprout perpetually guessing, perpetually on the back foot this CT side. And with Launex on a Deagle, Stare on an MP9, you've got to be the ones getting those early advantages. You've got to be the ones buying space. Instead, Alpha goes down for free. Hadji once again pressing the issue in towards middle and buying a wide open B bomb site for his team. 3 players queue up on the ramp. They're going for the rifle recovery. I can't say I blame him, but the B execute's going to come in the meanwhile, and Launex, he's got a Deagle. There's nothing to defend this B bomb site from the onslaught which is coming. Hadji is well positioned to backstab. The AWP of Zello is now stuck on the A site. And they're going to delay the bomb plant just a little while longer. Try and draw in these few remaining pieces. Draw the flank. Exercise can now call the A is wide open. They can walk this all the way back if they so desire. Or they can go for the timing backstab, and that is the call. Exercise has got Zello dead to rights. 2 quick kills. Zyphon looking to avenge his AWP will get 1, but the trade is instant, and Stare now is stuck between a rock and a hard place. LFO are pulling the marionette strings beautifully here. Just 2 rounds the difference. Sprout a half buy again, but they cannot keep relying on miracles.
No. They'll be on an eco now. Pistols and Kevlar at least with the full loss bonus going, but it really has slipped away from them completely here. After a massive lead at the half time and continuing on with it even early on into the second half. Just gone quiet on the CT side. It did take Looking4Org quite a while to adjust and start salvaging their own CT side, but it's the same going to be said for Sprout rather. Have aggression in towards the alley. Unfortunately, if they want to continue with it, they would have walked into a crossfire, and in the meantime, they're actually just losing the B bomb site. So looking good for them. Only a few pistols to see what sort of resistance they can put up, and must have got 1 kill at least. A second on the Deagle. Okay. Unfortunately, didn't expect the player to come in behind them and couldn't quite see him with the molly either way.
It's a good bit of damage, if nothing else, but Sprout really at the point where that's no longer relevant for them. Really at the point where they need to be starting to find rounds. And, well, a protracted fight for Zello will find himself a kill. So it brings it down to 2 alive. It's at least an economy costing round. Zello trying to be cheeky through the smoke will be punished, but the gap now, just 1 round. I mean, you look back to 12-5. And you look at this comeback and you wonder how on earth Sprout have let it get this bad, but they just are not resisting. Nothing they've done has found any consistency on the CT side. It's been isolated moments of brilliance that have kept them afloat, but that's it. And this is the consequence. 13-12. AWP in the hands of Zello again, but they need to find an answer. LFO at the moment are just pulling them from pillar to post, and they're going to call something up different. They're going to call the change up here. Fast into A main, fast into the A site. Missed shot from Zello, tagged up. He's now stuck completely. Does incredibly well to even get 1. The trade is instant. The bodies are here in support. The tag's significant. But can they do anything to hold this one off? Molotovs to try and flush these men out into the open. They are dumping everything on this, the CT side. There's a boost up to give Hadji a bit of an angle to work with here. The bomb's still yet to go down. It's stuck in main for now. There is actually a world where they can just retreat out of this entirely. And with that molly going in, this gets ugly again. They slow it right down. They're hoping to play on the minds of the CT side here. They do have a little bit more utility. Just a couple of flashes. No more smokes to lock these angles out. Molotov instead will go in. Zyphon forced back off the back of that. Or does he commit? The smoke goes in. They're trying to get this bomb down in amongst the chaos, and they'll manage it. Maka works his way in. Jocko looking to be the man of the hour. Does get 1 before he goes down, but the damage on the others is significant. Stare and Zyphon to try and stitch together this 2-on-3. Maka drops into Brokey in the perfect position to shut this one down now. There's no more utility. 2 players in main as well. This should be an impossible retake to unknit. They found a smoke on the floor, and that's going to be their one saving grace here, I reckon. They managed to isolate 1. They need more than that, though, and the trades are good again. Exercise out of main levels the standings, and this one is slowly but surely swinging back the way of LFO. I can smell Inferno on the horizon.
Yeah, it was just way too strong of an afterplant, especially since they had to use the smoke down on the actual bomb itself. They couldn't cut off the players towards main, and in the end it was inevitable that that trade would come in. Steer had to have his back to one of them. 13-13, we're tied up. This is a little bit shocking after that first half, and the buy is not coming right out for Sprout. They've got a half investment with some SMGs, some Kevlar pistols where they can get them as well. But they should most likely be conceding a 14th round and then hoping to turn it back with 3 in a row. That seems to be the goal. It looks like we have a short technical break here, unfortunately. Some issues which need to be resolved. We don't want them, either team being hindered by technical problems in such a close game.
No, we got to the stage now where it really is do or die time for both of these lineups. And look at the buy that Sprout are pulling out here to contest. So tough for them to get anything done. They're leaving a little bit of money in the bank. This is their half. They're conceding 14 in the hope of pulling the comeback. But given the form of their CT side, it feels difficult to justify, Dean. It really does. You look at how they performed and how many difficulties they've had. How do you even start on this CT side to orchestrate this comeback? Because they found, what, 1 round since the pistol? I need to check and validate those numbers, but it's damn near close. They found 3. Okay, I'm being a bit harsh. They found the pistol. They found the 2nd round conversion. They have found 1 full rifle buy. And that one was a pistol half buy where they pulled something a little cheeky out the back pocket. They have not won a rifle buy on this CT side, full stop.
A true gun round. Yeah, I don't know. They've just completely collapsed here on the CT side after such a strong T performance as well. And a promising start off the back of the pistol round, and such as we said as well. Just been missing since then. And I don't think they're going to be coming back in this round. But, I mean, who knows? As you said, their previous successes have been with these weaker investments where they've taken some risks, where they haven't had as much pressure perhaps on them to succeed. And the pause now just removed, so perhaps we're going to see something similar. Although it was Vertigo where every time a pause happened, a technical pause, Sprout would just go from nuts to terrible, back to nuts after the next pause. It turned them on and off, so maybe they just needed that one pause to flip their switch back on.
They've hit the reset. We'll have to see. 3 MP9s, a 5.7 and a P250 stand between LFO and 14. They are on the precipice of pulling off one of the comebacks of the season so far, forcing us to that decisive map. Inferno, a map both of these teams are very comfortable on. Sprout have clearly decided they need to take the fight to the T side here, but it's costing them. Zyphon tucked in is down on 14 and he has to bail as a result, just doesn't have a choice. Escapes with his life. That's something to work with. A little bit of a silver lining through the clouds, and as they look to replicate the madness of their previous half buy, smoke goes deep down the B lane to allow them a little bit more breathing room. It's going to be a mid play. At least it looks it. They're waiting for the aggression here on the LFO side of things, hoping that a little bit of speculative utility into B will drag the rotation. But instead, it's going to prompt aggression. 2 men push into A main. Control taken. The backstab now a possibility. It's a question of timings, though. And again, LFO have so consistently been good at just exploiting these timings, these half gaps in the CT defense. The backstab is coming through, but will they get into the donut before it can happen? There's a freebie for the low HP Zyphon. Now he's got to worry about Scaffold, though. There's players flanking him out all over. Stare, at the very least, has found one, and Macca's missed shot has dinked his man up, which is perfect for Alpha to capitalise. Suddenly, it's 2-on-4. Exercise, at the very least, takes 1 down. That's an A-site plant, but it's a 2-on-3 after, and tagged up through the smoke already. It's 3-on-3 after. I've missed a man, and suddenly it looks a lot better for the T side as Exercise finds another Hadji with 1 more, and it's Alpha. Asked to 1v3 this Exercise on site. Tagged up. I think the HUD's glitch. Indeed, it has. It's double Hadji. It's 1v2, and it's Alpha on the MP9 to get it done. The mystery man, the ghost of Hadji, will have nothing to say about this one. It's 14 for Sprout. The MP9s and pistols get it done. Once again, they find the miracle when they need it most.
Out of nowhere. I mean, that should have been done. I was going to say it looked promising for a while. Then we got confused by the HUD as well. So we thought there was an extra player.
So mad.
It's hard to be specific looking at the names sometimes when you're on the fly. You're looking from piece of information to piece of information. But yeah, I mean, as you said, Hadji's Ghost couldn't do anything about that after Alpha put in a solid 1 versus 2. Good trigger discipline initially as well to make sure he got that first kill as quick as possible. Because if he took more than a second, even on the little burst of the MP9, the other player just peeks and kills him while he's not even looking. So, great work. 14-13. Somehow Sprout have done it and kept themselves in the lead for now. But the economy, while it hadn't built up to an amazing place for Looking4Org, it is okay to get one reinvestment here. So they just want to come right back out swinging once again. And as we said before, Sprout have yet to get an actual gun round win. So I'm honestly scared seeing them have full weapons here.
It feels worse than them having 3 MP9s and 2 pistols because it just hasn't lined up for them. Every time they've gone to this full rifle buy, the strat hasn't landed, the timings have been off, all the little things that make a round of CS have all just slowly tipped in favour of LFO's T side. This time it's a bit of a stack from Sprout. Very limited in their mid presence, a double donut play. A gamble if I've ever seen one, it's the bait and switch. They did have 3 over towards B. Now they're looking to work Alpha back into this mid control. Pop through the smoke potentially for Zyphon and Alpha, and indeed they're going to charge on through on that. 2 quick kills, make it 3. Alpha and Zyphon, a little techie play that should mean 15. Lucky and Exercise left with the monumental task of clutching up 2 on 5. Exercise is going to get caught nade in hand. He leaves just Lucky. He leaves nobody at all. The economy is broken beyond repair for LFO. At 15-13, they are going to have to go back to basics. They're going to have to go back to pistols, to SMGs, to anything they can muster to try and stop Sprout from getting this one over the line.
Yeah, they closed that one out so convincingly as well. When it came down to the 2 on 5, for a minute I was going to say you can't underestimate these boys. You know, they're very capable of losing a round somehow in a 5 on 2. But
harsh, but fair.
They get it done. And that might have been it. That could be the final nail in the coffin. There is barely pistols in Kevlar here for Looking4Org. They will have a very difficult time fighting this back towards an overtime. The first of the 2 rounds is going to be by far the hardest. So if they can overcome that somehow, then the second would be a lot easier, as the economy of the CTs would also be kind of broken at that point. But I don't know. There's barely any utility. It's all pistols. Yeah. No SMGs even. They've just gone full Deagles and Tech 9s.
LFO, right when they had their foot on the throat of Sprout, just let off and just allowed themselves to be flipped onto their backs into a chokehold here. Handful of pistols. They're going to go for a very similar play to what has worked time and again for them. This close mid-aggression. Split the defense between the 2 sites and then pick your poison. Problem is this time the utility isn't there for an execute, so it is all on this split play. In fact, most of the utility is committed to it. Lucky's smoke halfway up mid. Macca's Molotov up on scaffold. The flashes of Jocko already into red room. What's the call? Smoke to split the A site. Now an X. Stuck behind it for now. Drops his Molotov to play through. They've seen this before, Sprout. They know what's coming. Hot flash around the corner. They'll try and overwhelm with the pistols. It's a rough on spray. 1 for 1. Alpha's blind. He's got to try and stay alive, and he goes down. A site under siege here. Zyphon. He's got recovered rifles all around him, but Zello instead goes for the miracle. Through the smoke, he gets 2. And that may well be what saves Sprout's bacon here. Last man up, picked off at the pass. It's 16-13. It's Sprout who find themselves the 2-0. And that was an absolute slog of a map, Dean. Nobody had control. Nobody managed to hold on to anything at all. But LFO, again, just lacking that clinical edge. I think you could say the same about map 1.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't think that they had over 40 maps played of Ancient between the two of them in these past 3 months, would you? It didn't look like it. It was a crazy affair. It wasn't the most standard CS. We'd seen them both just kind of falling flat and just trying to outcompete each other and who could kind of who could fall off more from one round to the next. It was a strange game. I don't know. I thought map 1 was going to be a bit of a walkover. It ended up being relatively competitive. The second map looked like it was going to be competitive initially, and then it started seeming like a walkover up until just out of nowhere Looking4Org come alive, bring it back to 13 all and decide, you know what, we've done enough. We'll end it here.
Yeah, that was honestly one of the most indescribable matches I think I have ever seen. You're right. I think Sprout, they've clearly got some things to work on, but you can see the ideas kind of forming, right? It's always going to happen when you're chopping and changing in-game leaders. There's going to be these sort of difficult moments. You saw it across all 4 halves. There were moments where they just didn't quite seem like they had a unified plan on how to approach things. They were getting picked off one by one. It felt like the comms were maybe a little shallow, right? There was those consistent mid plays, the backstabs coming through where you could feel that they just missed that sort of integral IGL who can knit the whole thing together, who can read it and call aggressively around it. But they still managed to get it over the line. They still find a way to break through. And for LFO, you can see the pieces and you can see how they work when they all start to fire off together. But then they get chipped away at time and again. They don't have that lethal finish to them. They're not able to put these games to bed because that should have been done in 2 for them. As soon as it was 7-3 up on Vertigo, they should have accelerated. They should have shut it down before it got too ugly. That game, they should have finished it before Sprout got back in on the CT side, right? If they hadn't given up the rounds to 5 pistols and 3 MP9s and 2 pistols, they finished that. It's those 2 rounds that save Sprout. And those are the rounds at this level of the game. If you give them up consistently, you are going to be punished time and time again.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate, but I mean, how often do we see a team claw their way back into a comeback and then just let it fall short right at the end? Because that's when the pressure really begins to mount. Up until that point, you're like, you know what, maybe we can do this. There's not as much pressure. Suddenly you get to 13-13, you're like, damn, this is real. We could maybe actually win this game. And then the nerves begin to creep in a little bit. And unfortunately, I think that was a bit too much for them to handle this time. Talking about the matches that are still going on, though, there is, of course, LDLC versus B8 over on the B stream. It's currently 6-0 on map number 3 after they traded maps. They've had a very close series as well, actually. 16-14 map 1 for B8 and then 16-13 on Anubis, which was map 2 for LDLC. So we've had a very competitive series on both of the streams.
An absolute slog for them as well. They are, of course, as you said, still going on the 3rd and final map of that series. So make sure you stick a B up the top there. Head on down to their stream so you can catch that 3rd and final map and see if the French team can get it done on their stream instead of on ours. But from myself and Dean for tonight, it is good night. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place. You're not going to want to miss it. We'll see you then. Good night.
You love it, you wear it. What's your style? Get your merch at shop.eslgaming.com.
break up, don't speak.